Hello, good morning. You're welcome to The Big Issue. The Big Issue is a platform for incisive analysis and riveting conversation. My name is Selom Adunu. This morning, the show is live and interactive as always. You can join the discussion via our WhatsApp line, 0549 986 996, 054 986 996. And we'll be happy to share your views with the rest of the world. There are two key issues on our plate this morning. The first one having to do with the confirmation of the MPP running mate, Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh, as they want to complete the MPP ticket. Dr. Baumia is already there, and then he completes it now. The question is, how can he win over doubters? And also, what do voters want in candidates or in their next president? The NDC, led by John Dramani Mahama, has completed its tickets quite some time back. So we have John Mahama and Professor Jenano Pokuajiman, the same candidate he ran with in the last election. What do Ghanaians make of these two pairs, John and Jane, and then Doc and Doc, Dr. Baumia and Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh? What will Ghanaians be looking out for? Would the personalities matter, or it will purely be about the messaging? We will look at all of that this morning. So we'll be happy to hear what you think about the matters that we've raised. Also, the matter of the Chief Justice proposing or requesting additional judges or Supreme Court judges on Ghana's Supreme Court bench. She proposed or requested the President to appoint some 5 justices to the Supreme Court bench. People think that she sidestepped the law, and so what she did was unconstitutional. What does the law say? What is the procedure for appointing judges to the Supreme Court? The Chief Justice wrote to the President, but did she write to the President in her personal capacity as CJ, or she wrote on behalf of the Judicial Council, which by law is supposed to be doing so? What are the issues? What discussions went on? What was the role of the GBA? What was the role of the Attorney General and all the various stakeholders? We will delve into that this morning. So that is what we have for you this morning. I'll take a short break. I'll return, provide you some updates, introduce my guests, and then we will hit the discussion. This is The Big Issue. My name is Selom Adunu. Don't go away. Hi, welcome back. This is The Big Issue. We are live on 97.3 City FM, and we are happy that you've made time to join us this morning. Two key issues we are looking at. The first one having to do with the confirmation of Matthew Opoku Prempeh as running mate for the MPP, completing the ticket for election 2024. What does it bring to the table? How does he win over doubters? What has his personality got to do with anything? How does he complement Dr. Baumia? How different is his ticket from the ticket of the NDC, which is a major or the main opposition or opponent of the MPP? What do Ghanaians look out for? What are they looking out for in this election in their candidates or the next president and vice presidents to be? Is it the messaging or is it the personalities? Or is there a way the personalities influence the messaging? We will look at all of that this morning. Also, in the second part of the show, we'll look at justice delivery. The Chief Justice wants some 5 judges appointed to the Supreme Court bench, and many people have taken her to the cleaners. They think that the process she is employing is unknown to the Constitution. It is unconstitutional, therefore null and void. But there appears to have been some discussion with some stakeholders, the GBA and the Attorney General's office, etc., about how that process should be. Indeed, the argument is that the Supreme Court is overwhelmed, the workload there is massive, and that we will need more hands to be able to deliver justice timeously and expeditiously. What do you think? We will look at all of that and see whether the Chief Justice acted rightly or she did not. We will deal with those things. All right, let me provide you some updates. Now, the National Council of the New Patriotic Party has endorsed the decision of its flag bearer, Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, to pick Energy Minister Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh as his running mate for the upcoming elections. The National Council endorsed the decision on Thursday after earlier meetings with the National Executive Council and the National Steering Committee of the party. There is more in the following report.
Present at the meeting was President Akufo-Addo, NPP flag bearer Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, national executives, regional executives, and members of parliament. The National Executive Committee was expected to first engage on the selection of Matthew Opoku Prempeh as running mate, followed by a National Council meeting to affirm the decision. But according to ChannelOne news sources within the party, a joint meeting was held to approve this selection. The meeting also served as a platform for speeches to be delivered on leveraging the ticket to secure victory for the NPP. President Akufo-Addo reportedly praised Dr. Bawumia, his deputy for the past 16 years, and expressed hope that Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh will serve the NPP flag bearer in a similar manner. After the meeting, the former education minister was introduced to council members. NAPO, as he is affectionately called, was warmly received by party sympathizers at the Alisa Hotel, signaling their support for his selection. General Secretary of the NPP, Justin Kodua, outlined the council's reaction to the nomination.
I'm happy to report that after the necessary consideration, the National Council of the party unanimously endorsed the presidential candidate's nomination of Honorable Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh, Member of Parliament for Manhyia South and Energy Minister, as the vice presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party.
The party believes NAPO is well suited for the job, given his performance at the Education and Energy Ministries.
NAPO, as we popularly call him, spearheaded the implementation of the famous free senior high school policy. Under Dr. Prempeh, the successful implementation of the government's flagship free senior high school policy saw the country's SHS population lift from 800,000 in 2016 to 1.2 million by January 2021.
But what significance does NAPO's persona hold for the NPP as a party?
If you were to ask me what Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh brings to the NPP presidential ticket, I would say it brings to us a bold, confident, hard-working, result-driven, decisive, grassroots mobilizer, charismatic, patriotic, and demonstrable, incorruptible person.
Meanwhile, a close ally of NAPO who worked with him at the Education Ministry asserts that NAPO has the ability to attract anti-NPP voters as well.
He is going to attract all the people who believe that Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh has demonstrated the qualities of servanthood, has demonstrated the qualities of a transformational leader in this country.
All right, so that was the report by Hansen Ajima, and also the official confirmation of Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh as the New Patriotic Party's flag bearer's running mate for the upcoming election brought joy to the constituents. There was jubilation at Manhyia South constituency party office as party members gathered to witness the official confirmation by the NPP's leadership. ChannelOne News' Ashanti regional correspondent Hafiz Tijani reports.
Shortly after the announcement was made by the NPP's General Secretary on the party's running mates, jubilations started at the Manhyia South Constituency Party office.
To have the name Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh to be the running mate to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia clearly shows that Ghana is going to be happy in the coming future, because he is going to be the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana.
Apart from that, he is a grassroots person. He is somebody, you know, not to go to somebody. He goes to you, you go to him straight. This is somebody with the grassroots and the party executives have been crying for.
The party members spoke highly of Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh and maintained he is the best person to partner Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia.
He has a very huge fan base. As far in the party, he has a very huge fan base. exterior, when he come outside the party, he has a very huge fan base.
He's a born and bred Ashtown guy that he can perform everywhere.
The MPP will in the coming days officially unveil Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh as the party's running mate for the 2024 election.
All right, so meanwhile, the MPP has opened nominations for a by-election in the Manhyia South constituency following the confirmation of its MP, that is NAPO. Even though Parliament is here to officially declare the Manhyia South seat vacant, the party has begun processes of replacing the MP. The following report has found.
This is the 5th term Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh has represented the constituents of Manhyia South as their Member of Parliament. His elevation to the MPP's running mate position will automatically make the seat vacant, necessitating the need for a replacement. Some names of individuals seeking to replace the Manhyia South MP have emerged, including his biological brother, who currently serves as the constituency treasurer. But what qualities will delegates expect in a possible replacement for the Manhyia South MP? Alhaji Haruna Al-Hassan is the constituency secretary.
So on the issue of those who have shown interest to replace the current sitting MP, as you said, the outgoing member of parliament, who inshallah is going to be the next vice president of Ghana in the person of Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh, has left a very huge gap. So the constituents are expecting no other person but somebody who can fill that gap. It's a huge gap.
He says some individuals began expressing interest in contesting the seat even before Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh was announced as the running mate.
Nominations have not closed yet. The person may say that he's coming. As we see in politics, maybe they are just testing the waters. We've heard lawyer Bafewa, a lawyer who is also has shown interest, and our current financial secretary, in the person of Owusu Efriye Prempeh, he has also shown interest. We've also heard some few names, but these are the names that we've heard so far. We've also heard that those who contested our honorable member of parliament in the last parliamentary primaries, we've heard that one wants to come. So it's not confirmed. So let's all wait till the close of nomination on Tuesday, then we can make an official statement on that.
Posters of some prospective aspirants have surfaced. As ChannelOne News understands, some have begun engaging with delegates. The MPP has set Monday, July 8th for the opening of nominations, which will close on Tuesday, July 9, 2024. The election is scheduled for Sunday, July 14, 2020.
All right, so these are happenings in the Manhyia South constituency. All right, my guest this morning, Al-Hassan Suhini, Honorable Member of Parliament for Tamale North. Professor Kobi Mensah, political marketing consultant, and also with the University of Ghana Business School. Franklin Kujo, President Imani Africa, and Kingsley Amwakwa Boidu, who is with the MPP legal team. Gentlemen, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me start off with you, Honorable Suhini. You work with NAPO in Parliament, and you are a politician, and we're watching the space. So we had the news last week that he was not Matthew Opoku Prempeh was the guy suggested to the president okayed it, gave his blessings, gave some piece of advice to the candidate, etc. Now the final thing is happening, presented to the National Council. He's been okayed, he's been outdoored more or less, even though the official outdooring will be done in Kumasi next week, we understand. Has it been the guy the NDC has been expecting to be named the running mate all along?
Well, Salam, once again, good morning to you, good morning to Dr. Kobi, and then good morning to our viewers, especially the very good people of the Tamale North constituency. Permit me to wish the BEC candidates the very best of luck, especially those preparing in my beloved constituency, the Tamale North constituency. I organize a free extra classes for about a year now. for all the students. And there's a ceremony today to end the classes in the constituency. But for your invitation and my repeated disappointment in the past, I decided to let my team handle that on my behalf. Whilst I also attend to your invitation.
Thank you.
Salom, yes, the NDC has been expecting the vice president to name his running mate for some time now. It was becoming quite difficult for him to do, given the lobbying that was going on in the party, the intense lobbying that was going on in the party. I can almost imagine the sleepless nights that he had to settle on one that unfortunately is not going to make any significant impact on his chances. And he says so. I mean, clearly, if you have a man suggesting that being a driver's mate amounts to nothing, then you wonder what the fanfare is all about when it comes to choosing a driver's mate. I can just, you know, by his own words, imagine that Manhyia Opoku Prempeh has just been sacrificed to, you know, he's been put in a position where he may be no longer impactful on the people of Manhyia and the country at large. That is, if you are going by...
He wants to be... He may become vice president.
If you are going... Inshallah, that's not going to happen. But even if that happens, in the unlikely event that that happens, I'm saying that, judging by the vice president's words, it amounts to nothing. I mean, he says that you are just driver's mate and you really don't have any impact. So I wonder why there was that much fanfare in choosing a man who adds nothing to the development of this country, because that's what the vice president wants us to believe, that all the problems are as a result of the fact that he did not really have any role to play in the management of the economy. But for us in the NDC, I like to refer to what was going on in the NPP, climaxed only this week, as Dukadaya. You know, whoever partnered Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, the result was going to be what we currently have. The fact that people are finding it very difficult to make ends meet. People are finding it very difficult to afford basic necessities in life. Nothing is going to change because all of a sudden NAPO has been announced as a running mate to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. The price of Kenke will still remain the same. The amount of money, you know, that is required to buy a gallon of fuel will remain unchanged. The CD to the dollar rate is not going to be affected because NAPO has been named as running mate. I mean, the mess that was created and continue to persist in the educational sector is not going to all of a sudden be transformed. And mind you, Dr. NAPO has been the longest Minister of Education, at least in this regime. And so if you have that level of mess and corruption, you know, associated with that sector, you cannot have hope that anything significant is going to change simply because NAPO has been named as a running mate. The, you know, devastation of our environment, our forest reserves, our water bodies will not soon evaporate because NAPO has been named as running mate. The crisis in the energy sector, the fact that IPPs are owed and there is disagreement over even how much is owed and the terms of payment that the government wants to roll out will not change overnight because NAPO has been named as running mate. The economy and the mess that it is in and the likelihood that this nation may yet have to go through another DDEP given the trend is not going to vanish because he has been named as running mate. But what is important for me is the fact that the NDC has been ready for a very long time to face whoever the NPP brought, in the elections, because this year's election is not just political. It shouldn't be. It's not about just partisanship. It shouldn't be. It's about, the levels that we have sunk to as a country, never seen before in the Fourth Republic, and the determination to rescue this country and to attempt to put it back on the road of growth. And so you have the NDC ever ready on one side, presenting people with character, people you can trust, people with integrity, as against the NPP now with a complete ticket of dishonesty, of arrogance, of failure, of mismanagement, and, if you like, flip-flops. I mean, people you cannot trust, people who are responsible for our current state. And I've asked that question, that how can people be so audacious to believe that we can hand over the future, our future, to them after they have messed up our present? How do you mess up a people's present and still have the level of confidence that they display that they will be naive enough to hand over their future to you? So here you are with a ticket of character. Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman has been a minister of education before, left the ministry squeaky clean. No allegation of mismanagement or corruption has ever been leveled against her.
But do we have
nothing?
When Matthew Opoku-Prempeh was leaving the ministry, I mean, he had done unprecedented things like increasing the number of students benefiting from the free SHS, etc., providing access. I'm not sure he left any scandal there. Only good things.
He did. And I don't know what you consider good.
The free
Because
SHS access.
Clearly, if you look at the free SHS, you see, I have said that our politics and our policies should not just be about ticking boxes. It should be about impact that they make. And so to roll out a free SHS is not necessarily good in itself if it does not lead to quality of education and improvement of the human resource, that you seek to create for this country. So it's not just enough to say we have introduced free SHS and it has increased enrollment. What is the impact of that increased enrollment? The impact, as we see today, is that many, many children are being turned out of our, various institutions of study half-baked. Half-baked. Teachers are unable to even determine which curriculum to use at any given time. Examination questions and the question papers are bought for students instead of textbooks that is supposed to equip them with the knowledge that they require for the future. So really, what is the impact of a free SHS that only can, account for increased enrollment, when you cannot speak same about the quality of human resource that is being produced for the future of this country? But that aside, you do recall that as Minister of Education, we are yet to get to the bottom of how mathematical sets were procured in this country for students. And the fact that even internally, within the New Patriotic Party itself, people had to be arrested for, shortchanging each other when it came to the sharing of the booty involved in the contract, in the mathematical sets contract. And that is when he was Minister of Education. Again, this was a minister, like I said earlier, who prioritized the procurement of past questions over textbooks. For the longest period, our students lived in the schools without textbooks. Without textbooks. And yet, the ministry prioritized the procurement of past questions for these students. Now, it is not just about how bad that is in terms of the quality of education that it supports, but it also highlights a certain mindset that was at play here, procurement politics, where the focus was just on awarding contracts to people so that they can get 10% cuts and, super profits and live large on our taxes. Again, you recall that it was under Matthew Opoku Prempeh that we have this contracts involving the purchase of uniforms, school uniforms for schools, and many other scandals. Again, the internet for senior high schools. The fact that research or investigation has shown that almost all the secondary schools that were supposed to be connected to the internet do not have the internet service. Yet we paid over 50 million Ghana cedis to the person who is supposed to be supplying these schools with the internet service. That was under his watch. And I said that when you compare this record, and there are many, to the record of Professor Nana Jane Opoku Agyeman as Minister of Education, you cannot say same under her watch. What you can say is the fact that, we introduce resetting, for example, for JHS students, where people who fail.
We have chalk in some schools as well.
Well, I mean, that is the media. That is the media propaganda. And today, are you telling me that all schools have chalk?
They say they've transformed.
Are you saying that the fact that the media has chosen not to highlight, students still lying on their bellies in Wali Wali, does not mean that it doesn't exist? The fact that the media has not highlighted school without chalk and school without blocks, school blocks, schools under trees, does not mean that we don't have that under trees. So if you had a situation where when she was Minister of Education, one school complained about chalk and that became, the news, it does not mean that even as we sit today, we do not have worse situations. It is just the fact that perhaps the media has not chosen to focus on it, and maybe the opposition is not as propagandistic as they were when they were, in opposition. So I'm saying that the addition of Matthew Opoku Prempeh to Dr. Mahmudu it amounts to Dukadaya. I mean, it's the same thing. Nothing has really changed. Our situation as a country will not see any significant improvement just because of this announcement. And there's even no hope that it can, impact the challenges that we are going through. But on the other hand, what we have, like I said earlier, is character. President John Mahama and Professor Nana Jane Opoku. What we have are people you can trust. People who have served this country and after their service continue to stay with us, and in most cases has even challenged their opponents to prove the false allegations that they leveled against them, and they are unable to prove it, even though they have the coercive state of the coercive power of the state, available to them, but they haven't been able to prove it. In fact, I have been amazed that President Mahama on numerous occasions have had to even call on the government to investigate him, publishing his accounts numbers in some cases saying it jovially, that the things they said he acquired in Dubai and all other places, they should go and take them and appropriate them to the state. Because there is nothing. It is all lies, it's all been lies, and they have stayed here and they have not been able to prove it. So these are people you can trust. Despite the false allegations that were leveled against them when they were in office, which has not been proven ever since, you can trust them. They are people of integrity. They are people who are not corrupt. They are people who are hardworking. And when they are given a task like they did before, they perform it to the best of their ability. On the other hand, is dishonesty, it's arrogance, it's failure personified, it's mismanagement, it's corruption, it's flip-flopping, and I think the choice should not be very difficult for anybody to make in this country between the ticket of the NPP and the ticket of the NDC. How do you have a Minister of Education speak the way that NAPO used to speak to leadership of various institutions? Talk about CTAC, talk about student leaders who all had the unpleasant duty of encountering him during negotiations. Talk about UTAC, and they will all catalog a number of disrespectful utterances that he made with regard to their suffering, with regard to their concerns. And you want to give such a person more power? Let us remember what Mrs. Obama said about power, revealing the true character of people. Power doesn't change people. It actually reveals their true character. And you can see it even in our current president. When people said he was arrogant and it was denied, he was rebranded. Today he's asking chiefs to rise for him because he's too powerful for them to sit down and greet him.
Very well. All right, let me, Prof, I'll come to you.
Absolutely.
Kingsley, welcome to the program. Kingsley Amwakwa Boydu is a member of the MPP legal team and maybe communications team as well. Welcome to the program, first time on the show. Good to have you. Congrats on the party's confirmation of, I normally want to call him Napoleon because of the Matthew Opoku Prempeh as the running mate to Dr. Bawumia.
Thank you.
Yes. So what does it mean to the future leadership of the country, future economic prosperity of the country? Because from what many people tell us and from what's on the ground really, the economic picture doesn't look good now. So the idea is to have a pair that will prosper the country economically. Is NAPO the one to bring that to the ticket? Or you just put that together for us?
Thank you very much. Good morning to our viewers. Good morning to my fellow panelists.
Morning.
And yes, this is the first time of coming here. Lovely place. And I like the fact that you've changed your name to ChannelOne.
Great.
Welcome. Well done as well.
Thank you.
Congratulations for that. I've heard what my brother has said. He said a lot of things. And at times when you say too much concerning an issue, you end up, weaving rings around your own self in this matter. I think this coming election is the focus. The election, 2024, 7th December, and the build-up from now till then is the focus. And I also think that Dr. Bawumia has made a very good choice, a right choice in this matter. I, for one, even before the matter of who should partner Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia came up, I've always held NAPO in very high esteem, and I've always thought that he would be the best person to partner him, given the circumstances as in the political stage. And I also have to say that I was in the same school with NAPO at Prempeh College.
Oh, okay.
So I saw him.
Oh, so you are contemporaries? You saw him in school?
He's my mate in school, as a schoolmate, not classmate.
Not classmate.
He's my senior by far.
Wow.
Yes. And then KNUST as well. He was a medical student. He's my senior by far. He's 1 year ahead of the current bar president at Prempeh College.
Champon.
Yes. So
Wow.
I know him. He was a prefect. He's always been driven. He's always been results-oriented. And he's always been a sharp person. I think before we came to Firm 1, and he was in Lower 1 as a 4 and he was in Lower 6. And we heard that one NAPO had a national award of some sort, national award. Then he came. And you see, in Prempeh College, and even when we were there, I didn't know he was royal. I didn't know he had anything to do with royalty. You see, because we're all together. There's nothing, we don't consider whether you're royal or not. And he blended in so well that never came. All we knew was his intelligence, and he was a very strict prefect. And in Gadgesberg House, you don't misbehave, he will punish you. That's what it was. And he's carried throughout his political journey to where he is. He's reached now. Congratulations, big congratulations to him. And I look forward to Tuesday when he's inaugurated in Kumasi on a Jackson Park, which is now the Jubilee Park. Now, back to the issue here. And let me even throw this in. You always call him NAPO.
Yes.
I haven't heard anyone who's called him Honorable NAPO.
No, NAPO is a nickname, more or less.
Exactly, but
So
you see,
you don't call
others,
Doesn't go with a nickname.
exactly, but others, we call them Honorable so-and-so.
Honorable what? A nickname?
No, with their names, but
So
him,
we call him Honorable Matthew Opoku Prempeh.
precisely. But I'm saying that we don't refer to him as that. Reason being that he's amiable. So he's,
No, but that's his nickname. Just to clear, that's his
I'm
nickname.
not saying he's not his nickname. You're not
But
getting my
to
point.
say honorable nickname,
You're not getting my point. I said that when we're referring to him, he's so amiable that it is very the convivial nature of it comes out. So NAPO, as in we relate to him, I've related to him several, is NAPO or senior, because all guys want to call ourselves senior. That's how it is. There's no formality because of how he relates to people. If you go to the ministry, he relates to everyone in a very friendly manner. That's the person. So for us and a lot of people who know him personally, when you say the arrogance, it doesn't sit well with the kind of person we know, you see. Now, I think this particular election, education has become a very important part of this election, to the extent that we are saying we've introduced free education. We have increased, in fact, astronomically increased the number of students or the number of people who have gained secondary level education. And it will translate into those who get tertiary education and several things. I personally know of a school in Kumasi, and in Ghana we all talk about top schools. That is just a figment of imagination anyway. And I always go somewhere and pride myself, prepare this, prepare that. There's a school in Kumasi, a girls' school, which is not playfully in that top 10 schools or whatnot, manufacturing a vessel that was sent to the naval base that detects all things underneath and say in the bed of the water. Girls' school, not tertiary education. Girls' school, as a result of TVET and free education, being able to do this. And so when you talk about...
As a result of TVET has always existed.
Yes,
education has always existed.
Yes, but it is the input we have made in those who are being educated. That's what I'm talking about. Now, so when you say that because of challenges, and there's been times where there's been teething challenges, if you call challenges a mess, one, they're not even prepared to have a positive outlook at it so that you are able to resolve the issues. You see it as a mess. That's a very defeatist approach to it. You should see it as a challenge, and I haven't seen any policy that you implement and will not face challenges. Otherwise, then we could just take the paper and then once we draw it very well, neatly on the paper, then that's it. No, you will now go and practicalize what you've put on paper. Then you meet the challenges, and then you take steps to resolve them. So the fact that there are challenges, and yes, there are challenges. There's been challenges at times with feeding, with quality of food, with several things, all right? It doesn't mean that one, it is not a good policy, and that two, that we haven't achieved success when it comes to secondary school education. Now, when it got to a point that the drawing attention to the challenges of the system was not working in my brother's party's favor, now they have come to say, no, we introduced it first. So the thing that wasn't good, now you introduce it first. You see, education is going to be key. And who is the person who had the mandate to implement it? NAPO. He chalked success there. In spite of challenges, he chalked success there. Now, so education, then energy, then the economy at large. For me, I think, these are the three areas. Now, NAPO can answer adequately in matters of education because he implemented the free secondary school education, and energy because he's the sector minister. So put him on any platform, he can talk to issues. Thankfully, the running mate
opposite number
is also
former education
minister. So we can weigh the two and see, okay, this is how you understand education itself, these are your deliverables, this is how you achieve them, and this is how it is impacting on the future. You see, when we do politics, it's not just for the here and now and the personal aggrandizement. It is 20 years from now, 30 years from now, when some of us are holding a walking stick and walking around and people don't even recognize us anymore. What is the impact of what we are doing now at that stage? That's when we will really realize the impact of free education and some of the things we have done. And so it is great. I think the choice of NAPO is great, so that we can measure that. And when it comes to the energy sector too, he can speak to issues.
But has it been that great in the energy sector?
You see, the energy sector, until we depoliticize energy sector in Ghana, all right?
But who politicized in the first place?
Allow me to land. Allow me to land, Council. Until we properly depoliticize energy sector, all right, and look at the whole value chain, all right, and the energy, we're even talking about power, not petroleum and all that, power, okay, because that is what we instantly feel when there are power outages. And to depoliticize it and look at the whole value chain in terms of generation, supply, and what comes to the consumer, and we consumers being responsible enough to pay for what we consume.
And government also being responsible enough to pay for what it consumes.
Exactly. As in government said, there's a shame when my brother's house, very august house, the power was cut.
The way you say my brother's house, as if it's personal house. You mean the House of Parliament?
I don't own that
The House of Parliament. The state owns it.
I don't say that.
I don't own that.
But the state
I
owns
thought you
it.
said you don't want it.
No, you say he doesn't own it. It's not for him.
It's just
Yeah.
okay, that's all. So relax.
I don't own that house.
You see, it's a shame. All right, we've had hospitals and several things. If all of us must take our fair share of responsibility, then we deal with debt, legacy. We've been able to have some agreement, all right, and that is proactive measures taken, and it's a difficult thing to achieve when there's this level of debt, and we've had this agreement that ensures that going forward, the power outages will not arise. These are issues, these are steps that Dr. Now I'm mentioning his name properly, Dr. Matthew Poku Prempeh. These are some of his successes. You can't take that away from him. So as I said, where he's coming from is coinciding with some of the areas of focus for this election.
Great.
And he'll be great today.
Great.
Then, him as a person, I've already said.
Yeah, just hold it. Let me just bring it. I'll give you enough time to do that. Prof, you have been watching the things from academia. I know you see what's happening, etc. What does this ticket look like for you as somebody who is into political marketing, etc.? How does this ticket look like for you as we approach or a ticket for such a crucial election? And let me state that, I mean, we'll go for a break while I'm in the middle of your conversation. Let me also acknowledge Franklin Kujo, who is on Zoom. Franklin, we miss you, and we are happy to have you back, but we'll speak after Prof.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me, and thanks for sharing the platform with you. I think that my candid view from what I have actually studied, and by the way, my PhD is very much on MPP's tickets. I mean, 2000 elections, so I've actually learned this party for quite a long time. I think that the ticket is a catch-22 ticket because of the many things that the party itself said. I mean, going into the selection of the flag bearer, the argument that actually was advanced, completely from the significant sections of the party was because, one, if they don't choose the vice president, i.e. Bawumia, for example, there will be a propaganda that the party uses the North and dump them. That argument had been one of the arguments that I think MPP hasn't gotten it right. I think it is non-starter. I mean, way back in 2000, there had been that kind of conversation. And I always say that, but if you look at the other aisle, they don't choose Ghana people. They haven't, NDC hadn't actually chosen Ghana before. They actually hadn't chosen an ever before because Rawlings was a default, right? Why don't they have the same argument for the other side? But you accept that you actually are canistic. I don't get it. So the argument was foisted just to facilitate the entry of the vice president into leadership.
No, but it's always been the case that in MPP, persons from minority groups would hardly get opportunity to
I
lead.
think that, you see, I had a conversation with Jacob Echebilamte of blessed memory, and he said something that actually sticks with me. He says that the country itself is majority accounts. So if you take 10 people, you're going to have about six people.
Accounts, yeah.
Exactly.
Like 6 accounts.
How is that your fault? It's about providing a compelling argument. Politics and governance is about performance. It's about, can the person deliver?
Yeah, but I think when they talk about Akan party, I think the focus really is on Ashanti and Eastern.
Of course, that's
because
what they say.
Fanti, Central maybe it's also Akan.
Absolutely.
But if the person is from Central, I'm not sure it feels like Ashanti or Eastern.
Absolutely,
So
but
that's
the broader
context.
argument is that they have agreed somehow to the sectionist characterization of the MPP, which I think that it's something that you can actually defend. You cannot accept that you are Akanistic or you are Ashanti, all right? Because it doesn't matter where the person comes from. Once the person has competencies, you should be able to actually vote the person. It's about arguing to the voters whether they would align with you. Of course.
But it's about representation
Of course, I am not oblivious to the fact that you need representation. But the representation, not in terms of geographical, representation in terms of ideological, representation in terms of socialization, so many other socializations, right?
But
so
geographical could also...
my point is that the party has allowed itself to be boxed in a manner that they are struggling to actually, kind of defend, all right? So they use that premise to actually get in, the flag bearer, which I think it was self-serving. I mean, the people who wanted the flag bearer actually used that argument, all right, to push him there. Now, you do that, and then now you realize that, whoa, the so-called the dominant constituency could be alienated, and as a result, you want to pacify. So you push another candidate, all right, which is NAPO. Now, it is catch-22 because strategically, if you want to exercise the idea of the party being Akanistic or Ashanti, all right, I can promise you, after this election, if Bawumia doesn't get a nod, you're going to have another Ashanti on the ticket. Strategically, have you actually solved that problem? You haven't. Because when we talk about trends, we're talking about 3 or more. The finance people will tell you.
Yeah.
So if you had actually used the ticket from the north just once, he doesn't win the seat. And then there's a battle, of course, which is acceptable because everybody is allowed to compete. And NAPO competes and he wins. How are you going to argue yourself out again?
Very well. Just hold your thought. I hate to do this, but we will take a short break. We'll come back and Prof is on the roll. We'll get him to land and we'll interrogate some of the points he's making. And then we'll talk to Franklin Kujo, who has been globetrotting for the last few weeks. This is a big issue on 97.3 City FM. Don't go, we'll be right back. You're welcome back. This is a big issue. My guests have been making some interesting points. 2 key issues we are looking at this morning. The first one has to do with the confirmation of NAPO, Matthew Opoku Prempeh, as running mate for the New Patriotic Party's flag bearer. And matters are rising. By-election preparations ongoing in Manhyia South, where he is MP, and a few other things. We're looking at the ticket, how will be able to win over the doubters, how different this ticket is from the John Mahama, Jane Opoku, Ajiman ticket, and then what does the Ghanaian electorate really want in their candidates or in their president, and a few other things. My guests, Alasan Suini, Honorable Tamale North MP, Kingsley Amwakwa Boedu, MP of Amwakwa Boedu Esquire, member of the MPP legal team, Professor Kobe Menses, a political marketing consultant and with the University of Ghana Business School, Franklin Kujo, President Imani Africa. Prof was on making a point about what he thinks is the propaganda that the MPP bought into as being an account party and so made Bawumia the candidate and all of that. But he thinks that the MPP fell for a trap and that in the next election, if Bawumia doesn't win this, that is where the real issue is going to come from. Prof, you're on the floor.
Yes. So then they move into the selection of the running mate. And then they find that, well, that could actually hurt them because then people are talking about, one, you haven't delivered, and that is not me saying. There's a census, there's a consensus in town that the party hadn't delivered. Now, the idea that the party hadn't delivered comes from 2 fronts. You had given quite a number of numerous promises. In fact, I take it strongly for Nanado to have said that I would develop this country into Singapore 18 months. That is a statement coming from a very established senior politician who knows a lot. haven't given that promise. You know, from marketing background, we have what we call value proposition. Now, you have to be true to what you say. So if a politician says something, I don't take it as people will call it, you know, a politics. I mean, in political communication, we say that communication is performative. What you say is exactly what you do. It's not theater. Theater, it's pretense, all right? Theater is about the exaggeration, it's about pretense, etc. In political communication, whatever you say has to have a meaning, it has to be done, it has to be performed, right? So if Nanado says, I will perform this, I will do that, and then there's a general consensus that he hasn't performed, you have under-delivered. Now, they've realized that perhaps in the Ashanti region, which is a stronghold, a lot of people are apathetic to the political party, and therefore it will be difficult for them to come out. So let's find somebody to appease that particular constituency. Now, let me tell you something, Selim. If you look at the pronouncement of NAPO, all right, in public, and you know, character is formed not only by what you do, but also by what you say. If you take the pronouncement of NAPO in public, and look, he's a fantastic guy. I know him very, very well, all right? But the public engagement, all right, it is not one that anybody, any politician of modern times would actually say that is the best way to do. Now, I ask myself, who in the party, not the government, actually performs the role of calling people to order? You heard Ruto last night, the other time when they did the X space. He said that he's been sitting ministers down and saying, this conduct is not right. This conduct is not right. That's the work of the political party, all right? You are watching your government in power, and then you're hearing the kind of people, things that people are saying, ministers are saying, ministers are doing. You're calling them to order. But he says anything. He, sorry to say, disregard public views. He makes statement that a lot of people, although they're not closer to him, they will not have the opportunity.
Public
sentiments. Yeah, exactly. I mean, look at when people were actually asking about Doomsday.
But that was just one.
No, that's not the only instances. There had been quite a number of instances, all right? Now, when you do that, you're framing, you're creating perceptions. People do not have to get closer to. We don't know Nkrumah, do we? A lot of us don't know Nkrumah. We hear him on, we've seen him on in the videos, books, and so, but why do we have a view about Nkrumah? It is about what you say, it's about what you do. Not everybody would have access to you and to know how fantastic somebody is. But they are taking you on what you say, your behavior, all right? When you look at performances, what actually make up leadership or performances, you're looking at your cognitions, you're looking at attitudinal, you're looking at your behavioral, all right? Now, if you put all things together, are you going to be able to say that indeed this is a candidate that perhaps people are, you know, unfairly tagging as arrogance? No, you have actually shown certain evidences that is actually putting that together. So when you have a political party that's supposed to fill a certain slot, which is the vice president slot, I'm telling you, if they had their own way, I don't think that they would have actually chosen him because of the public perception, the negativities that are attached to it.
But there were a number of people
exactly,
who also tick the boxes from Ashanti.
Of course, but that's what I'm saying, that it's catch-22. They realized perhaps he has a stable constituency, he's very energetic, he's very, you know, nobody can actually take that from NAPO. He's got a drive, all right? And he's well known in the country. Of course, we'll come back to the other side of the negativities. Would you rather want someone who is not known and therefore you can feed the people easily, or you want someone that you need to change the linkages? As a brand person, I'll go for the one that has no knowledge in the system and I can actually build on that, all right?
But that'll take time.
Well, it depends on how. You can, I mean, political campaigning, even in 1 week, you can actually do that. So my point is that, so the party now is caught up in this flag bearer who is likely not to appeal to the broad base of your constitution, which is the Ashanti region, and is not having the appeal of the country in the first place, and then trying to build that gap, all right, by having an Ashanti so that it can actually drive the Ashanti vote. That's why I'm saying that it's a catch-22, you know, ticket. Otherwise, they wouldn't be struggling by now. But of course, they have actually misstepped from the first round, which is the presidential, you know, ticket, the presidential, the flag bearer, and then they have to make up with the what do you call the running mate. However, the makeup itself is not complete because you can talk about Ashanti region. Can he pull Ashanti region, let's say 80% or 75? I doubt. He can pull the base of the MPP, no doubt. But the people who are despondent, the people who are apathetic, who are not the followers of the MPP, can he really do that? I don't think he can, all right?
Really?
Well, I don't think. Because you have, unless of course within this few months, 5 or 6 months, they can do something dramatic. But you see, perceptions take time to form. You know, people have to drastically move from their negative sentiment towards you to a very positive one. It takes a lot of time to form. So I think that they have had a lot of missteps, and that is what actually, you know, kind of affected.
I see. Franklin, good morning once again. Welcome to the program. Is this the pair to sell hope to the people of Ghana? Sometimes when you interact with people, the feeling you get is that hope is generally lost. Is this the pair to bring back hope or to sell hope to the people of Ghana? You have known NAPO, you've known the vice president. Is this the pair to achieve that?
Well, it's good to have hope, but it's another
you don't want to
thing
unmute,
to be.
Franklin.
Oh, really? I'm on mute though.
All right,
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, I was just saying that it's good to have hope, but you don't sell hope in times when it seems to be basically the basis of baseless optimism. I would be very careful selling hope as a ticket. What I think is important in all these matters, and I think my good friend Doc and including the gentleman from the MPP himself and the MP, have been quite clear as to why the choice was made, right? But I think it's important to also say that, look, NAPO is his own nemesis, really. I have had close relationship, up close, dealt with him at least on 2 occasions that I think I'll call them professionally. The first one was in 2013, I think, when he was chairing the Committee on Health. At the time, I'd been called to come and testify before the Public Health Committee, the Health Committee of Parliament, to discuss the Public Health Bill. That was the first time I encountered him, and I think I must say that he was very professional, extremely professional. That bill was shepherded through quite well due to his dexterity. I think at the time he was working closely with Muntaka, 2 great men who were really, really, really good at that committee. My second encounter obviously wasn't particularly too pleasant, but it was also interesting. And that had to do with the introduction of the free SHS. He had then just invited a small group of people to come and discuss the free SHS and how he thought he was going to roll it out. It was an interesting conversation. He was very hawkish at the time. Some of us had to put him in his place because I don't think he understood the genesis of the free SHS at the time. But it was an excellent conversation because at the end of the day, we sort of made up and said, look, we all needed to make sure that this thing works. I was concerned at the time that there was no policy paper guiding the process at the time. But of course, as you know, that has also come full circle. On those 2 occasions, how do I rate this man? I'll say that, well, look, he takes his job seriously. That I know. But I think that it is also important that human relations are very, very important. I mean, how you come across, especially when we've had our backs against the wall in this economy, supervised by Nanado, my good friend, into the doldrums we never thought we'd ever get to, literally pickpocketing our savings, emaciated savings regarding inflation. And to think that we had our backs against the wall and we had challenges like, power challenges, no matter how small it was, I mean, how brief it was. I think it was important that NAPO communicated properly. And I think many people have said that what he did was wrong. He needed to communicate properly. He didn't need to come as abrasive as he normally would like to do. When he's on the political platform, I think he's sort of a different animal. And I don't think that is what we require of a gentleman who wants to run the office as a vice presidential office and potentially a president. Everything about his public utterances, especially when he's angry or against a particular suggestion from the public, is quite distasteful. And I think those ones are becoming his undoing right now. Otherwise, why would the party be struggling? I mean, I like Dr. Kobi's analysis about tribe. I mean, my good friend Lord Amwa says that the pair running the show for the NPP one is high on numbers and the other is high on tribe, essentially saying that Dr. Bawumia is high on numbers. If you understand what that means, that even though it's an economist high on numbers, the things are going in reverse order, and it's probably just drunk on numbers and nothing is happening. The other one has to do be high on tribe, which is what Dr. Kobe suggests to you, that if you are making this ticket an account ticket, then you have actually lost the plot. Because I don't think that even if you have your strong base as a can, I think it is also important to not to dissuade the importance or reduce the importance of the economy, the importance of the energy issues. I mean, look, NAPO needs to answer the questions about why there's some legacy debt, close to $2 billion in the energy sector, solely by he shuffling things around and probably not paying too much attention to the sector. I mean, I have to say that. I think some of the decisions he took probably did not really help. And as I say, he's been professional on those two occasions, and I think that he could do more. He needs to work on his speech, his public utterances. I hope he's changed, but like they said, the leopard hardly changes its spots, isn't it? I'm wondering whether he would not, in fact, I hope that he never really speaks without notes in this election. So otherwise, we'll just be sounding the death knell of the party, whose candidate and the current running mate seems to have too many questions to answer. You know, this election is also going to be a question of trust and the person who speaks the truth. And I think that is becoming a commodity around the world as well, which many voters are actually looking out for. I mean, if you look at the UK elections, it wasn't because Starmer was making any wonderful promises per se. In fact, the Conservatives had even managed to claw the economy back from its rabbit hole, right? The inflation had come down, which we seem to be probably experiencing in very little forms right now. I have to be careful. We are not out of the doldrums yet. But it looks to me that the many things that were said to us about how razzmatazz the economy was going to sound, how lucky we were going to be to have an economic peace kid, and including my good friend Bawumia's own very true statement that he made. Sometimes I wonder whether he listens to the statement, how he feels. Because again, those questions have come back full circle, and people are now beginning to ask themselves, okay, but why is he not owning up to the economic issues? Digitalization is fine, go ahead and do it, but the economy is what everything and the rest is built on. So while that is important, maybe this is where NAPO could come in. I mean, NAPO has been big on energy, even though, as I said, he was just running around circles and leaving the debt in his trail. He also needs to now come up and be seen to be answering policy questions, not dealing with tribal issues. I get very offended and angry when I hear that, oh, he's from Ashanti, Ashanti is the biggest place. But I say Ashantis do not think or eat and drink. Remember when when Bawumia met Asantini, what did he tell him? He said, my brother, own up to the challenges. Don't let people be close to you, tell you all kinds of things. Like Joe Biden, right? He's been told to get out of the race. He said he's waiting until the Lord Almighty calls him. I don't know whether he means when he dies, but well, it tells you that leaders can be stubborn, giving the people around them. So maybe NAPO may be that savior who comes around to say, oh guys, look, we were wrong-footed at some point, then the challenges of the economy, we want to deal with it, but he has to be practical, not telling people to go and do their business in plastic polythene bags when they are talking about access to education or access to furniture, or tell people to go and create their own timetable when it comes to even sharing food. You know, this is so interesting. But look, as I said, my up-close relationship with Dr. Opoku and those two incidents I mentioned. I think the second one, even though I did not think it was a very nice encounter, I think he was overwhelmed. And indeed, he was a man who was given that bullish role to pummel through the free SHS. Somehow, if you go back in time and look at it, you'd also probably give him some little credit and say, look, maybe he was the only person at the time who could actually pummel through the free SHS thing with all its imperfections. And I think for now that all of that has come to, is being trumpeted as one of his reasons why he should be vice president, I think, Mr. Gentleman from the NPP, my good friend from Ashanti, you should call on NAPO to now answer the question about quality. What will be the qualitative addition to this economy in the next 5 years, 10 years of the free SHS policies? And that's how advanced societies, far-seeing societies think. They don't just think in numbers and say, oh, I've given free SHS to so many people. Then so we are happy that there is some modicum of education. So education should pass through you, not you passing through educational institutions. And it's important we need to ask the question, what has been the qualitative outcome of free SHS? Because that is how we measure additional growth. You cannot be spending 2 billion a year on free SHS and come and tell me that I've increased enrollment. No, I want to ask you, so NAPO has to answer those two questions. How does he unburden us from the energy bills he's left behind? How does he promote an education? How does he see his legacy? Actually promoting an education which is inclusive, fair, and productive. Thank you.
I see. So yeah, so let's move the discussion forward. That great points you've made. But of course, just to also mention that he left the ministry about 3-4 years ago, and he did.
Oh yeah, but that's the point. It's not about leaving the ministry.
No, he did his bit, and there's another minister. Of course, now given his position, he'll be responsible for bigger things, right? I just needed to point that out. So if we want to hang the challenges of the ministry today on his neck, that would be asking for too much. Even though in his position now, even though in his position now, he's supposed to be speaking to the general governance issues. So in that sense, you may be right. Yes, but I want to move the discussion forward. Now,
just a quick one, if you allow me, if you permit me.
So when I come to you, I mean, you deal with that. I want to move it to the Jane and John, Bawumia and NAPO comparison. So frankly, I'll start off with you on this. When you look at the two tickets, we have Bawumia and NAPO on one side, and then Jane and John, or John and Jane on the other side. You know, what do you make of these two tickets? I mean, the temperament, the combinations, what you hear them talk about. Which of these two tickets do you think, given our current circumstances, will be more likely to endear itself to the Ghanaian people?
It's actually Doc and Jane and John. I think you are changing the narrative.
Yeah, I mean, John and Jane, yes.
All right, well, listen, look.
Doc and Doc.
That's a powerful message to be made when you have a running mate who is female. You know, this country has more females than men, really, and I've been dealing with Jesse issues. I've been sufficiently educated recently about gender issues, really, and I've come close to appreciate the importance of our women, the importance of our mothers, the importance of our sisters, daughters, and what have you in the body politic, not just politics of it, but even the what's called the building blocks of the economy in every country. You look at women in agriculture, women in education, and I think we've not given them a fair share of our development, should I call it needs or outcomes. I find it very difficult and offensive to even be discussing issues of parts for women, for ladies, when taxes have been imposed as if there's no tomorrow. So for me, look, I'm not going to make a comparison of personalities. I'm going to deal with the issues of interest of our time. Because if you get into personalities, people have their different traits. I believe Dr. Bawumia, for instance, let me digress a bit. So on the issues of personalities, I believe Dr. Bawumia, for instance, is a fair gentleman, right? But I also believe that he's not done his image any good by the many economic theories he propounded, of which he seems to have run away from all of them. You know, and when it happens that way, people then begin to look at you like, Charlie, I didn't Praminia, I'm gonna be a Sunday, but feel no. It's more guns to say Otilo. Essentially meaning that it's run away. And you see, those things don't serve his image well. So I still want to call on him just as the Santini did. Actually, I did before in February, what the Santini did, remember, Salom, that he should own up to the economy matters. You see, those things are personality related. There's the issue of integrity and truth in politics. So he's a nice gentleman, and I think he could actually surprise us, maybe if he's given the mandate. But you see, then you have to now ask yourself, okay, how is he going to do this if he's not going to address this and say that, look, I'm sorry, I did it. Instead of saying that, give me the steer, instead of saying that I'm the driver's mate. Those things are quite frankly offensive and annoying to hear. So we could go into that rabbit hole. And I'm saying, let me just stop here, because we discussed the personalities of, what's his name, the running mate to Bawumia, as well as Bawumia himself. Bawumia is a fine gentleman, I mean, one-on-one, an affable man, and I think he can really move mountains if he needs to, right? But now he now has to be measured against the public perception of he says things and he doesn't probably want to follow them up and all of that, and it's very difficult. Personalities, I said, let's put them down for the meantime. as far as this conversation of comparing the two tickets is concerned. And I'm looking at the issue of gender, and maybe you are seeing my biases already. I'm saying that on that ticket, I would have thought that, well, you can't legislate for the NPP. They decided to choose two men. I'm just looking at where the world is headed right now. Not that I don't believe in fact, I don't like affirmative action. If you ask me, I dislike it because somehow it deprecates and it reduces the value of women in a very fair society. I think in this society, women have been given quite a fair chance. And most of them, the inhibitions they face are mostly because men exist. And I think it's important that once we are building an economy that is going forward, we now have to look at the vestiges, the vessels that will create wealth. And I can tell you there are many women who break their backs, SMEs in agriculture, in mini trading and all of that, but face very humongous taxes. And the ones I think would have to be championed, as I've heard from Nana Jane, and that's what she wants to champion. The issues of inclusivity, the issues of exclusivity, the issues of fairness for all. And I think that which John Mahama has made to say that, look, I'm having this role for you, that you're going to do A, B, C, D, seems to me like game on. Of course, there's a wide gulf between intentions and actual practical delivery. But I'll say that the optics of Jane and John looks to me to be answering the questions of our time. Inclusivity, economically and politically. Because that gives an example of people saying, okay, now we can also become part and parcel of the ticket. Starmer just made the first chancellor, first woman chancellor in the UK. I'm surprised because it's been so long in coming, because I've met quite a number of excellent British ladies of the IEA, not the IEA Ghana, the original IEA in the UK. Pepper years of privatization, and I'm a private privatization guy. I'm a capitalist. And I've had many, many interesting conversations by these persons. And, so I was wondering how it took the UK this long to make the first minister, chancellor of the exchequer. I think we are getting there with the ticket of Jane and John. And it looks to me that we'll be seeing more women playing leading role in the potential government of the NDC. So I leave it there.
Very well. So let me come to Suhini. Yes, almost similar question. What do you think distinguishes the Doc and Doc ticket from the Jane and the John and Jane ticket?
Well, before I answer that question directly, I just want to reiterate the point I made earlier that has been highlighted by Franklin about education and the fact that we shouldn't reduce our politics and policies to just the ticking of boxes. I mean, if the major achievement of free SHS is just increased enrollment, then you wonder if it was worth spending the amount of money that we spent on it and the fanfare that we continue to create around it, because enrollment has always been consistent. Increased enrollment, has always been consistent. Even before free SHS, every year we had an increase in enrollment
but
at the basic level.
The numbers increase drastically.
Yes. So I'm saying that when the volumes increase, what you expect to achieve is that you will have quality increasing alongside. Then you are guaranteed a better human resource in the future.
But I want to admit that, of course, from 2017 till now, there's been some improvement in terms of quality. So, for example, in 2017, we saw students sleeping on the floor. Sleeping on the floor.
I won't agree. That's not just about quality.
Yes, but it's in a number of phases. So classrooms, labs, dormitories, etc. All of those are to quality.
When we speak of quality, we are not just talking about the infrastructure that is available to house the students. That is another leg of the conversation. The fact that we were not prepared for this free SHS to be rolled out in the manner that it was rolled out. And so you had in the initial stages, and even till date, students eating, in the open, and some of them, sleeping on verandas. It still exists. Students not having classrooms, it still exists. So that is another conversation of infrastructure and how they are accommodated in the schools that they have been sent to. That's another conversation. But I'm talking here about quality of education. And I'm saying from 2017 up till now, we have done very little to improve the quality of teaching and learning in these schools. That is how come you have a situation where even, like I said earlier, teachers don't even know at a particular time which curriculum to use to teach their students. Students don't have the textbooks that they are supposed to use to learn. And that is how come past questions are prioritized over examination questions, all in over the textbooks. Aim, yes, over textbooks, all in the aim of just scoring cheap partisan political points. And that should not be, you know, what our education should be about. So I'm just happy that, I mean, that point has been reiterated that, look, it is not just about increased enrollment. And when my brother said that the NDC is recently claiming that they introduced free SHS, I mean, Salom, you do know, you have lived in this country, you have followed these discussions, that it is not a claim. The NDC has never been against...
NDC is claimed progressively free.
Exactly. The NDC has never been against free SHS. The NDC has always been for progressively free education that ensures quality. That has been the difference. In fact, the difference in my view between the NDC's position and the MPP position has been that of pragmatism versus political expediency. Whereas the NDC has been approaching the issue of free SHS with pragmatism. Let's look at what is doable and graduate to what we all desire. The NPP has been, let's do it for the political points. That has been the difference. So it is not just that a claim has been made, but when you look at the two tickets, I mean, if you listen to Franklin again, and if you listen to Mr. Mensah, Dr. Mensah, you will come to one conclusion, which perhaps I put more frontally than they are allowed to, because of, you know, the if you like, constituencies that they represent. Salom, I spoke of a dishonest ticket. Didn't you hear excerpts of that in Franklin's assessment of the character of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia? The fact that he's running away from economic theories that he propounded and running away from all the problems that he is supposed to embrace because he has been an integral part of that system. The fact that he used to come with the finance minister to present the budget. Salam. And that for me may seem, you know, flimsy, but it is significant that he used to come with the finance minister to present the budget just so he could reiterate the point that he is the chairman of the economic management team. When the inherited goodies were looking good, and then when we hit a snag, when the level of mismanagement started hitting home, he abandoned that exercise. The finance minister was left in the cold and eventually had to be replaced, because all the subsequent budgets, when the economy, you know, tanked, that were presented by the finance minister, he didn't come again. But he never announced to the world or the country that he stopped being economic management team chair. So it tells you the character of the person. And you can see that about him in many other areas. So maybe I was a bit, you know, frontal because, yes, I'm political, I'm partisan, I'm allowed to. But if you listen to the conversation, you can't discount the fact that this ticket that the MPP presents is that of a bunch of dishonest, you know, people. You cannot discount the fact that it is an arrogant ticket. Again, listen to the analysis. And listen to Franklin himself speak of his personal encounters and his personal interactions.
He may not use... encounter with NAPO was very professional, second to same.
Yes, no, but he didn't say so. He said, yes, it may be, but he may have been overwhelmed. He said he may have been overwhelmed. So it means something unpleasant happened, but he's just excusing it to he being overwhelmed. Are you getting the point I'm making?
He's a nice guy.
So I'm saying that you cannot discount the fact that it's an arrogant ticket.
What the arrogance means on whose part? Because Bawumia is a calm guy, we know.
Well, but it's a ticket. It's a ticket. And so when you talk of dishonesty, it depends on who you pin it on, based on their outcome. If you talk of arrogance, you'll find it in that ticket. I'm saying if you speak of dishonesty, you'll find it in that ticket. If you speak of arrogance, you'll find it in that ticket. I mean, on that ticket. And if you speak of, you know, failure, mismanagement, again, you are talking about, you know, CVs. You are talking about, the fact that, well, he's been elevated to oversee a bigger issue, and so concentrating on his past role as education minister may not be, you know, fair. But that's why I disagree with you, Selom. There is something to be said about presenting a CV when you are going for an interview, and that is to, you know, speak to your possible performance when you are given your new role. Not so.
Yeah,
that's why we present CVs.
He left the ministry.
I understand that. I get the point that you are making, but I'm saying that he left the ministry and he's now auditioning for a bigger job. And so the only way you can make a reasonable assumption of his performance, if he's given a new role, is to assess
when he was there.
Yes, is to assess how he performed the previous job. And so assessing that and coming to a reasonable conclusion that because he did bad in that ministry, this bigger role will overwhelm him. It's a fair, you know, conclusion.
But did he really do bad?
Absolutely. I think that he was, like I said, I mean, Prophet Nana Jane was there. He left there. Can you remember any scandal that was associated to his reign? I mean, any procurement scandal. But it doesn't mean the ministry was not engaged in procurement activities. That is somebody who was upright. That is somebody who followed through, you know, to ensure that everything was done according to the books.
But these were just allegations. I could throw allegations.
I am saying that even under her watch, which allegations were thrown? Because there was nothing to be thrown at her. Because she was that good at her job that it was difficult for you to even make any allegation of corruption against her. So I'm saying that in the case of Manhyia South Prempeh, we have not established conclusively, but at least there is that perception out there based on the transactions that took place under his watch. You cannot deny that. So it is a ticket that you can find corruption, you know, in it. And again, these are flip-flops. These are people who have proven not to be consistent. And you will not want such people as role models for, you know, the future. But on the other hand, like I said, you have a man who, until he became president,
who failed and was sacked from office.
Selim, that's why I'm starting from that point. Until he became president, here was a man, and you were in the media, who was, you know, characterized as a good example of a good politician. Before he became president, John Mahama was used as a model of a good politician, even by New Patriotic Party sympathizers. They used to say he's a good man, he's a great guy, but he's in the wrong party. That's how he was characterized. He became president. They leveled all manner of false allegations against him. People bought into those falsehoods. He left office, and he has since challenged them to prove those allegations and to hold him responsible. Salam, how well can a man, you know, prove his innocence? And how much more does he need to prove that all those allegations that led to his so-called failure were just false? How else can he prove that all those false allegations that led to his so-called failure? Because people say he failed because he lost an election.
But I'm saying that he failed because he also failed to manage the economy well. I mean, we suffered 3 years of doing so, and a whole lot. So these are things people don't want to remember.
Because you want us to wrap up. You want us to wrap up.
Exactly the point.
In fact, we all know in this country, if you want to follow the facts, that he did not create Doomsor.
No, of course, nobody said he created Doomsor, but he mismanaged.
If you say he mismanaged,
he didn't manage it well. It was overly extended. The hardship was massive.
Selim, let's be honest and let's look at the facts. Under President Rawlings, there was Doomsor. Under President Kufuor, there was Doomsor.
But it didn't last this long.
I'm coming. I mean, it's like you have a boil on your leg and you don't treat it. It will eventually lead to amputation.
So over time was what we saw in Mahama's time.
Absolutely. Over time. That is the fact. In fact, the experts kept warning that if we did not invest in the sector, we're going to have amputation. If you have a boil, and so it got to the time that it was the amputation time when he was president, and he decided not to amputate.
He said he was going to fix it.
He decided to fix it, and he did.
Really?
And oh, come on. I mean, even now they admit. I heard the spokesperson of Dr. Bawumia this week say that, we're in Dumso for Mama put us in Dumso for 3 years. And I said, he was president for 4.5 years. So what happened to the other year? They now admit. In fact, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia in 2016 said that we shouldn't give him credit for fixing Dumso because people have already suffered. But the fact is that he was a problem solver. He inherited a problem. He managed that problem for 3 years, and by the time he was leaving office, he had fixed that problem.
Very well.
And yet, false allegations were made against him about how he even fixed it. In terms of corruption, Ameri and others, they have come. We have seen how they have handled that. And clearly, it shows that he's a better handler of the problems that we face. And same can be said about Professor Nana Jenopoko Ajiman, who is fantastic, who is also providing inclusivity.
Great inclusivity. So,
great role model.
Kingsley,
great role.
I mean, I know you want to say a few things in response to some of the things you've heard before. You can quickly do that and also get into your analysis of the 2 tickets for us.
Well, thank you very much. As I said, at times when you talk too much, you expose yourself rather than contributing to the topic. The issue is the ticket, is that also? So it's like we're setting different questions for ourselves and answering them. My brother Franklin said that because Rachel Reeves has been made a chancellor, it's the first time in UK, and yes, it's the first time that a woman has become a chancellor. But UK has had more powerful positions. All right? Prime Minister. There's Margaret Thatcher. We even have the Thatcherites. So that's her impact. So it's not that they have now made a room for a woman, therefore we should follow suit. It is a fact that at that moment, when Margaret Thatcher was coming, she ran against, what's his name? Edward... I've forgotten, Ted something. Very powerful, very accomplished person. To the extent that they made fun of Margaret Thatcher, that she's running, politics is a long-term event, and she's running as if it's a 100-meter race. And she beat him. That should tell you that the quality, the strength, the political savviness of Margaret Thatcher. All right? And until Tony Blair came, she was the longest-serving Prime Minister of UK. That, they've already achieved that. There's Liz Truss. Liz Truss, if they were going by that, Liz Truss lost her seat these elections. She lost her seat. And so it is not that they have created something that we should follow. It is that given that moment, who are the party, who are the persons and personalities and their backgrounds and what they're able to deliver, who are those and what are we just opposing that against, who are the other parties, and then we choose one, you see. And he says something that I agree in part with, that affirmative action. I think we should approach affirmative action in a way that promotes our sisters and our mothers and our aunties and our daughters, rather than the way at times we do it. Because I have been a lecturer for since 2011, all right? At some point, all those who are scoring the highest marks, or say the first 20, you have maybe 1 or 2 males, but it's been women. So they are there. It is that they must now put themselves forward. And when it comes to political terrain, it's a bit more difficult. So we should make it easier for them. We should never use their personal circumstances against them, because already it is difficult for them to remain in that terrain. And so I think those are the things we do to help our sisters and our mothers. And the running mate for JM, I have special respect for her because I studied English at university. And she lectured English in university. So I have special respect for her in that regard. As to whether when she becomes a vice president or when she was a minister, she delivered, that's a different thing. There are challenges. You made reference of one chalk. There's a payment of teachers' allowance.
But the chalk argument, have we not overstretched it?
No. Let me add. You see, I said there are challenges. All right. The fact that there are challenges is not an issue. That is governance. It's bound to happen, especially when we're dealing with human beings and running the government. Steps you take to face those challenges, that's what we focus on. How do you surmount this? Did you achieve something? Those are the issues we're dealing with. And then, because we are not just politicians, but Ghanaians, and we're looking at our future, what are the steps, as I keep on saying, that in the next 20 years, 30 years, we would have moved from, say, point F to, say, point maybe M, or getting close to Z. That is what is of interest to us. And I'm saying the ticket of Dr. Bawumia and Dr. Matthew Poku Prempeh is the best. You have someone who is he's taken up the issue of digitalization. I mean, you cannot go and stand in a bus in London and not be able to determine where you are and when the next bus is coming. If you even, here, Kotoka, Terminal 3, with all this newness of it, they still call out, fly so and so, please approach gate so and so. Go and stand in Heathrow. You won't hear anything. Because the number of flights coming in, there would have been chaos. You have to read, you have to know which platform, everything is reading, everything. So when we are going towards that, that is the future. The future is in digitalization. Because that impacts on everything. I do not need to walk to a bank to transact now because of interoperability and several other things coming out of digitalization. I need not do several things because that is time wasting, going to join a queue, several things. If you stand in a queue in a bank for more than 5 minutes, you will have issues. You think, is there something wrong with the bank? And the bank managers know. So then if you see they create more, they open more counters so that you be served quickly. So we are solving that problem. There are a lot of things that sit on digitalization so that we can now cut out the human interface that will cut down corruption.
Yeah,
and
but
all that.
is that not the next level, rather? I mean, that's the next level.
Precisely.
But the level beneath hasn't been dealt with.
But the person who is championing that and bringing that about, that is futuristic. That's what we need to look at. And then partnering with the person with drive. They have said several things about NAPO, all right? But there's nothing anyone has not commented on his drive, his charisma, his popularity, and his ability to achieve things. Nobody can take that away from him. Nobody can take that away from him. That is what you need. We're looking into the future. Where are we going? How do we get there? How quickly can we get there? Rather than raising some challenges and say that because of that.
So how will his charisma, his drive, and all of that solve the fundamental economic problems?
We have a corruption ticket. Should we really go down that tangent? I'm not interested in that.
But if there are issues of corruption,
branding, yeah, but there are other avenues and proper platforms and channels that we can talk about that. Because at the end of the day, we need to plug that hole. All of us collectively need to plug that hole. But should we talk about Airbus, government official one, and all that? No, we're looking at, because there's a lot to be said.
And he's been challenging you to
because that is not
evidence.
That is not
arrest
what
him. His immunity has expired.
That is not what we
keep lying about it.
Yeah.
You see,
go ahead.
you're still forcing me to
go
go down there. There's a UK judgment. So what are you talking about? So they also lied.
Judgment about
you
what?
see, let's not even
What
go
did
down.
the UK judgment say?
Let's not even go down.
Government
official number one. You see, let's not even go down that. And there's only one person. There's only one person who, as a vice president, was a subject of investigation by his own president. All right.
Now, what did that investigation
and it never ended. It never. Who are the members of those who conducted that?
That tells you
who's
of
alive?
The character of government that the
NDC.
NDC.
Who's alive?
I thought
who's alive?
I thought
the NDC, we are not clearing agents. Even the president will be investigated. We are not clearing agents.
Yes.
My brother. We are not clearing agents. If it requires the president to be investigated, he will be investigated.
Already you owe me.
I know.
There's some way we don't know about.
I owe him eat Chinchanga.
No, I don't add more to
it. Okay.
You see, so we can do all that, and that is the propaganda. I think Ghana, we need to move forward rather than say. He asked him a question that those were rumors, but then he said it and then ended on the fact that it's an established fact that there was corruption. So you see a corruption ticket. I disagree with you entirely. When it comes to this election, all right, there are several factors people are going to look at. Several factors. And so we also did not, it's not like a party sat down to choose someone. It is the flag bearer himself who has that preserve. Chose someone presented it, and then they unanimously agreed. See, so to say that the party had decided, yes, some made that point, that it is good we choose Dr. Bawumia because then we'll be shedding ourselves off the image, the notion that it's an Akanist party. We cannot say that it wasn't the truth and we have felt it. No, the fact is that is what has been said for us, to the extent that people even say that there are some other regions in Ghana or some other place in Ghana, if even you put a stone there and it's on a particular party's ticket, the person will win. I think that is what we are trying to get away from. Because, and my brother said, my guy from Kumasi or Ashanti, I'm from Basifosu. So I'm not even from there. That's our school, all that. But he just assumed. All right?
Because it's school there and because it's all about
yes, I look very much at Ashanti. Well, historically, we are all Ashanti. We just migrated and all that. But then, you see, it is the fact that someone can say that I don't even come from a tribe or a group or ethnicity which is dominant, but I have still managed to become a flag bearer. That is what we've achieved. All right. So if we are partnering the person with someone who can galvanize our base, remember that it was that was the only consent. All right. There were several other people he had to choose from. But he chose this particular person because he can partner with him so that they deliver. I think that is what is at stake here. That's what we have to look at. And can he deliver? My brother is saying that he may not get, he's the one who said he may not get 75%.
Yeah, I'm saying that
to galvanize the base, awaken the base.
Yes, I think
there are a lot of people.
I think the sweetness of the pudding is in the eating. Yeah. He is going to be just this Tuesday. Yeah. Now he will hit the road, and we will see results. And you see, all this issue about ethnicity in our politics, some of us do not want to see things, and some of us want to work it out in such a way that, my brother, I don't know where he come from, a majority group in the northern part.
It's a Dagon.
Yeah. That's okay. But the vice president, the group is not.
Yes. Dagon.
Okay. But you see, you should have someone who is not even of the large in terms of ethnicity, but the person himself, his charisma, his ability to solve our problems must get there. Otherwise, why do we so talk about Nkrumah? I'm from the UP tradition. Any day, any time, I'll talk about Nkrumah's achievement because he's a great leader. That is what we look at. The person should be able to bring us all together. Of course, the politics is a politics of numbers. All right? So in choosing, if he considers that that person also can deliver, he's a very brilliant person, he's a medical surgeon trained in UK, of all places. And he has all these attributes. He's got drive. And he's also able to galvanize a base. And a base, we can't run away from that. Our Ashanti region is our largest constituency. He's able to galvanize that. That is not to say that we are forgetting about
the other
people in
the
Central
largest
region.
in Ghana.
Sorry?
Actually, the largest in Ghana.
In Ghana, yes. And it's been that for a long time. And it's going to be that for a long time. You see, so that is not to say
I think
that
Greater Accra used to be more.
Yeah, that's a region. But in terms of the population,
okay, I mean, I'm talking about the voter population.
The voter population.
Yeah.
Greater Accra used to be more.
Yes,
Until this recent.
It's been overtaken. And I think what people are not averting their minds
and
to
that is for another discussion. Until this limited registration
it's going to read. It's going to read.
Been so
but I think there's another window coming up.
Everything. You see,
propaganda.
You see,
I mean, when we're talking about limiting registration to district officers,
they are
so what we're talking about.
Steeped in propaganda.
Just go ahead.
We just thought
we'll deal with that another day.
Things that's the case. You see, we need someone who can deliver. My brother said that of all the persons who could implement free education, the president fell on NAPO. Why? Because he was a better person to deliver. We are seeking to do what hasn't been done before. My brother's party is also seeking to do what hasn't been done before. A president who has gone out coming in. We're also saying that we not necessarily break the 8 because each party has 4 years. 4 4 years.
All right. They've broken
So-
our pockets
so-
and our
so
bank
we-
accounts,
no one
so
has
they
done-
don't want to use the
no
break
one-
again.
no one has done
They have been
a
advised.
third-
So a third term.
Communication
Oh, I see.
advised to stop
You
using
see,
the
when
break
you-
again.
A
when you-
political road
when you-
guiding
you see-
consultant is here.
you see-
So
when
now
you-
we don't say bring the
Yeah,
eight.
they have been advised.
That is a third term.
Wait.
Because the
When
arrogant
you are-
break
when-
it after
when-
breaking our
when-
accounts.
when you are
and our
driving
pockets.
home, he keeps on interrupting.
Yes, yes. So you have a few seconds.
When you're talking, this I was quiet.
You have a few seconds.
That is the issue. Where are we going? Which better team is able to take us there? When you haven't really come out with what your vision is, and you're just riding on the challenges the government in power is facing and riding on that to win
No,
an election.
who hasn't come up with a vision?
Nobody hasn't come out with anything that resonates with us.
No, so it may not resonate with you.
With
but
us in the whole of Ghana. So each time
Our
you get
vision will
them,
never resonate with you.
each time you give them the chance to explain, it changes again.
Very
It changes again.
I see.
It has not become 24
But
hours.
we are waiting for the manifesto. I'm sure the
it will
manifesto
come
will
out,
clarify that, yes.
and well, you should clarify.
Yeah.
But it's 24 hours, then it's a miracle. When the city of London itself, the whole of UK, it's only in the city of London that operates a
But
measure of...
let's see how they hope to do it. Okay,
Well, we'll see how they hope to.
let's
So
see
I'm
how-
saying that because of that, you cannot now throw dust or mud on someone, either character-wise or something, and say that because of that, there's a proven corruption, and so it's a corruption ticket.
Very well.
It is not
Great.
the case.
Doc, yes, your comparison. How much
Okay.
of an issue would trust be in this election? I see the NDC talking about trust. Recently, the MPP has also been talking about trust. So the two sides are talking about it. I don't know whose trust to believe.
Okay.
Or whose
Firstly,
trust to trust.
Firstly, let me tackle that, and I'll come to the complementarity issues.
Yeah, okay.
Firstly, there is a general notion that politicians can't be trusted, right? Why? Because it's not a notion. I mean, it's something that is come to live with us, because they will come out, unlike companies where if I put a value proposition and say a dependable partner, all right, as my strapline or as my slogan, I would train my staff in a manner that immediately you give me a ring, a frontline person will pick up and then respond. If I said I would deliver this at 9 o'clock, I'm working out. Politicians don't have that. They will give us a blanket promises manifesto full of, nice things. And by the way, these are symbolic. Governance is a symbolic. It's a promise, but it's a symbolic product. I'll do this, I'll do this. They will come to government, and then they will tell us so many stories for why they couldn't actually implement. So there's a general sense that we can't trust politicians. But if you compare these two, tickets, all right, on a very solid theoretical basis, I can say that perhaps the benefit or the advantage will be on the part of the NDC. Why? The MPP is already in government, all right? There's something called salience, currency, all right? The number of promises that they gave us, 2016, 2020, and because the people who said it are actually staring our faces almost every day, the likability or the possibility that the voter would remember, all right, and not to trust the MPP is high. Why? Because for time, those on the NDC side might have waned a little bit, all right? And so when you look at the theoretical perspective, if we can go by that and say whose, trust or untrustworthiness is so fresh in the memory of the people, it will be the MPP. Bawumia says so many things. He hadn't done that. He's not even answering the question. He's stonewalling people. And I keep saying, you can't stonewall us when you have said that the fundamentals or whatever would catch up with you, and you're not responding to it. Your argument about digitalization being the next window to achieve the economic success, fantastic. Everybody agrees that. I mean, I'm a very digital person. I mean, I have actually been into digitalization. I have believed that it is one of the windows we can, but link it. I mean, connect the dots. Speak to the people why you think digitalization. And by the way, it was an afterthought, because I'm analyzing his speeches. If you look at the 2016 speeches, there was no way Bawumia was actually talking about digitalization. He only jumped into it. His trump card was, economics. The president says that he chose you for one purpose, and that's your claim to fame. Why are you not responding to that call? You have to.
He said he realized that was a missing link.
Well, but you haven't told us.
No, he said
you haven't actually.
In his
if
speech
it was
at the
if it
UPS.
was a missing link, how does that link? All right. And by the way, admit that it's afterthoughts. But you couldn't. It was.
It's not
It was in 2016.
I'm allowed to have a vision in 2016.
Yeah.
And then in 2020, I'm allowed to have a vision that actually brings
all
everything
encompassing.
together.
No.
Yeah.
Nobody
disagrees
with
that.
that. Nobody
I can also have a vision.
Nobody
That's
disagrees.
How
even
do you
more
mess up
different.
my presence and
Let me
think I'm so
explain.
naive to hand over my
Let me
future?
explain. Vision is a long term, right?
Yes.
Vision is a long term. That means that he should have actually perceived it in 2016 as another window. We talk about streams, all right? So you have this part, you have that part. Now, you don't depart from the key one that you were appointed and then come and tell us something else and not admitting that perhaps you faltered in the first place. And by the way, the kinds of propositions that you put forward, you haven't actually achieved them. So you need to be outright with that. You don't treat us as though we're sorry to say. So for me, back on the topic, the people are likely to rather remember, all right, the shortfalls of the MPP more than, and they're likely to trust the NDC more than, because you're now in a comparison state. We have seen what the NDC did, and we have seen what the MPP is doing, and people are comparing, all right? Now, they have the ability to appreciate better, and that's why the narrative that Nanado had made Mahama look like a saint. You hear it in town, isn't it? Why is that? Because people now have the ability to perhaps appreciate these two. Maybe when Nanado had also exited and somebody had come, then it will put into the comparative picture the more to see whether they can appreciate Nanado better. But for now, people are actually appreciating Mahama the better than the current ticket.
Great.
So that's
the issue of trust. So, for example, we hear that he said he was a mate, whatever that means. You know, and so he was not a guy in the driving seat. He could have fantastic ideas. If the ideas don't find favor with the guy driving the vehicle, you know, it won't work. The mate may have an alternative route.
Are we saying Nanado lied to the MPP?
No, if the mate has an alternative route which he thinks is shorter, and the driver doesn't agree, he holds the steer, it doesn't work. So let's look at the e-levy, for example. Baumia, prior to the e-levy coming, said that he didn't think that digital, you know, platforms, etc., should be taxed. He said that openly, which tells us that is his view about it. A few months later, we saw the e-levy. That clearly tells you that he thinks otherwise.
But
that
governance,
view of his did not find favor with the guy with the steer.
in governance, I mean,
and
I've
would
studied
that
this.
be a trust issue?
No, in governance, I've studied this. Political companies, the long term, right? Now, I've studied this. Most of the time, when there are differences between the top of the ticket, in political strategy, there's something called leaking. All right, we leak. You know, you let your team leak because you have to preserve certain credence, certain credibility, right? So in most of the time, number 10, it happens. They will leak, your team will leak to demonstrate a departure between you and the president, or between you and the prime minister. It happened in Washington, it happens in number 10. It happens in Germany, it happens in everywhere. There are ways that you couldn't be frontal with disagreement with your boss, all right? But there are ways that political actors actually behave for us to see the departure. I mean, if you look at Rollins and Akka, for example, it was brutal in the faces of everybody that they disagreed, all right, in principle. And not even in principle, in practice, all right? Now, if you look at Rollins and Atamil's era, there were disagreement, and it was obvious to many people, all right? And that's why Jerry Rollins actually took issue at Atamil's even when he was in government. There are ways that you show departure. I mean, I know that the women organizer of the MPP had come out to say that Bawumia disagreed with the president in many ways in cabinet. Did we see evidence? No evidence. So from what we're watching, we're actually seeing someone who is very much aligned with the presidency, which means that he had no objection, all right, to something that he believes strongly in. But if you believe strongly in something and you have no objection, how would we actually take it that indeed you were fundamental to your core beliefs? And that brings us to a leadership question. And I ask myself, to what point can we say that you have absolute belief in a certain position that you would push for it, and you would even make sure that the general public understands that, just for your credibility's sake. He had actually demonstrated that. He had always been, sorry to say that, saying yes, sir, which UK people will say yes, minister, right? To the prime minister or to the presidency. And that is not good for you, because then it making us make different readings or different meanings in your traits. And I always ask myself, is he assertive enough? Because that question will come up. If you're assertive enough, we should have shown a certain disagreement, between you and the president. When he said that, he chose you purposely for what? For the economic question. And he convinced the leadership of the MPP party that, look, we have to go for this guy because he will help us to solve the economic question. You didn't do that. Now, let's look at the complementarity question, all right? Now, in branding, we talk about co-branding. And sorry to take you to marketing a little bit. Co-branding means that a certain brand with a certain trait, with a certain power, would endorse or would come and help another brand, to achieve a certain purpose. Now, you do that on two fronts. You either departing or you are aligning, right? So even in relationship, we say if your partner is cold or is calmer, you want the other person who is much more, So you either align with traits, the same trait, or you depart where you can fill the gap of the other person, all right? If you look at, Dr. Bawumia and Dr. Opoku Prempeh, and I try to look at the intersection of these two, where and where do they meet, and where do they depart in terms of proximate, all right? And I find it only in the political party, the ideological positions, all right? Of course, in traits, as you rightly said, and I have also said it, NAPO has drive. He can energize a base, all right? But that's from political perspective in terms of whipping up the support of the NPP, etc. All right. What about in terms of failures? All right. In terms of failures, in terms of the political campaign messaging, for example, where do they actually coalesce? Where is the complementarity? You find it difficult to actually identify whether in proximate terms or in intersectional terms. All right. But then when you take the NDC, there are hard to say messages that a man can't say, but a woman can say. From the gender position, Jane can answer those questions on behalf of John. Because when you're having issues about menstrual cycles, etc., it is not for a man to say. So it makes it easier for them to, on a campaign trail, for her to handle the gender issues, and then him to handle the other side in terms of profession. Of course, we have always said that the academics or the schools need a certain voices, all right? She can have that conversation on that side. He can have the other conversation on that. In terms of inclusivity, all right? So you realize that there are quite a number of things that the ticket can actually be, flexy to or be adaptable to it than the other side. And then, of course, let's look at competence and credibility, all right? Granted that the issue of, incompetency that was stuck on the 2016, and granted that the issue of corruption that was stuck on 2016. Look, when we talk about brand architecture, all right, you're choosing your brands in a manner that one actually offsets the other. I can easily, as a strategist, offset, Mohammed's ills with Nana Jane's, positives. Can you say the same for, Bawumia and, NAPO? You have a vice president that people say he's not assertive. You have a vice president that people say he's disappointed. He's actually, promised and he has not delivered. But you have a running mate.
Who's very assertive.
Who is extremely assertive that people are actually having issues with. All right? Has it been complementary? So it is very difficult to find that. Now, let's look at salience. We're comparing the ticket. Salience currency. And as I said earlier, this one is so fresh. In fact, NAPO's public comments that has actually riled a lot of people are so fresh in people's memories than even that of the vice president. All right? But you can't say the same for Nana Jane and then, the former president. Because you couldn't actually find public sentiment or public commentary that people found irrepressible, all right? From the side of the NDC's running mate. And even with John Mahama, perhaps you could talk about, the dead goat and things that people actually talk about. But that's a distant period ago, all right? So when you compare the tickets, I think that the advantage is in the camp of the NDC. Of course, we always say, and I always say that politics and campaigning is about strategy. You can have all the advantages on your side. What is the strategy to ensure that you win the election? But if you want to do the comparatives, the comparisons in terms of the tickets and where the advantage falls, I think that is very much on the side of the NDC.
I see. Interesting analysis there. Yeah, so we'll take a short break. We're just wrapping up on this ticket. On this topic. But Kingsley, just to pick your thoughts quickly, 1 second. As a professor of political history, at KNUST, Professor Edu Jemfi, he says that NAPO should limit himself to the script, written script. He should not be made to speak extempore. Do you subscribe to that? Because he's afraid if you allow him to speak extempore, he will rock the boat. He will say things which will be difficult to correct. You agree to that?
I don't agree at all.
Okay, very good. I just needed a simple answer. All right.
I think if you're going by that, then J.J. Rollins.
No, but like talking about the salience, J.J. Rollins been many years.
No. You can't just say because there's time. There's a time.
But J.J. Rollins is not in contention.
Precisely. But he was still popular. Let's not. I mean, we can't take that away from him. He was popular because he spoke and he spoke to the people. And you see, the people want genuineness. The people want.
So what? I don't even know the route you're going on with this. So what is
J.J. Rollins never angered the people with his comments. If you're going to say that you should read a script,
that's what the professor is saying. It's a safer way of doing it so that he doesn't get into trouble. Very well.
I disagree with that. Yes. I think for any person who assumes the position of a vice president or president, the handlers come into place. And it's how the handlers handle him and how he listens to them. Obama said that if he hadn't become president, you know that they will instruct him when to go where and where to pass. And so that is a handlers handling him.
You are talking, your handlers may not know.
Oh yeah, because you'll be coached.
The handlers struggle to do that because the people think that they are...
Precisely. So it is that mind with the movement and his ability to judge and weigh his audience and tell them what they need to hear. And in so doing,
does NAPO have that? Does he know his audience? Does he know what his audience want to hear?
Of course,
in doom so.
Of course,
and he says we will get our own timetable and that we were evil for wanting the timetable.
What you say in Kumasi, his base, even in Kumasi, what you say in Manhyia, which is his base, will be different from what you say.
But by speaking to Ghanaians, Ghana, vice president.
You see, I said, when you assume the position, Council, you're not allowing me to land. When you assume, so let me land so that you can move on. When you assume the position of a vice president,
it changes you.
It's a different office altogether.
No.
All right.
It's rather it reveals the person.
It reveals. And so when you get there, you have handlers, you have systems, you gauge what you have to. In fact, it's not that you're just talking. There are moments when you speak and you'll be prepped. And you gauge, you weigh your audience and you choose
the
language.
Politicians that listen to handlers.
Oh, well, I mean, that's not to say that he will not.
All right, great,
he's not in the mood where he can
to
be reading from the script.
I'm hoping I also get the same.
Yeah. All right, so we take a break. We take a break. No, I did your job for you, maybe. So we take a break.
Thank you for
we take a break. We take a break from here, and then we'll return and look at the other issue of the Chief Justice and request for more justices on the Supreme Court bench, whether that was a procedure, which was right, wrong, unconstitutional. We'll look at that with a refreshed panel. This is the big issue. Don't go away. You're welcome back. This is a big issue. Just gone by is a discussion on the MPP running mates, and matters are rising, and a few messages that you have sent to us on this. Let me take this one from Chris from Ashalibuchu. He says, Salam, how did Mahama create them? So, what was President Kufuor's investment in the power sector? His investment was microscopic. You remember that Reku Brobe said, what Reku Brobe said about the toy generators Kufuor bought. Do Dr. Bawumia and NAPO have something good to offer? I see arrogance and lies. I wonder why these MPP folks still defend their failures and corrupt dealings. They are already in opposition. Anyway, it is possible to lie. That's Chris from Ashali Botre. This other one, trying to just on the issue of the inclusivity, he said we have had one female as IGP, acting IGP. We have had chairpersons of the Electoral Commission, Speaker of Parliament, and then 3 Chief Justices and Shraj bosses, all female. We are not doing badly at all. Today, there are more female in SHST vets than males. This is from some.
We've not had a vice president yet.
Honorable say we've not had a vice president who is a female. And we've not had a female president as well. And there's opportunity for a vice president.
And when they had a chance to choose a female president, they gave her 3%.
All right, so that's it. So on the next matter, the Chief Justice has defended a request for additional Supreme Court judges, citing the overwhelming number of cases at the Apex Court. Delivering her closing remarks after the hearing of 2 lawsuits filed by broadcast journalist and lawyer Richard Delaska and researcher Dr. Madodo against Parliament's passage of the anti-gay bill, the Chief Justice highlighted the need for more judges. Quote, the ruling is adjourned to July 17, 2024. We must thank everyone for their patience, but this is our lot. There are several cases pending, right? That is why we need more Supreme Court judges, she stated. Her comments follow a formal request to the President to nominate 5 judges to the Supreme Court, aiming to strengthen the judiciary with highly qualified and experienced legal minds. The names nominated for appointment to the Supreme Court include Justice Ifiasewa Botre, the presiding judge in the ambulance case involving minority leader Kisela Tuforsin, as well as Justice Sarah Pamela Cranting, Justice Edward Amakwa Santi, Justice Eric Bafo, and Justice Angelina Mensah Homea. My guest on this second matter, Alassane Suhuyini, Tamale South Member of Parliament, Kingsley Amwako, Tamale North Member of Parliament. Tamale South is on. I've been trying to say Tamale North. But Tamale North Member of Parliament, Kingsley Amwakwa Boedu, who is a member of the MPP legal team. Bobby Banson is a private legal practitioner. And Franklin Kujo. These are my guests for this segment of the program. I start off with Suhuyini because your party held a press conference this week stating that the CJ's approach to getting the Supreme Court justices increase was unconstitutional. It was not proper, and it's not the way to go. But let's take this clip, which puts the matters in context. All right, okay, that's fine. So that's what it is. Now let's see what the CJ actually said to the president in terms of her request. So this is what the CJ wrote to the president about. Brief on the need for minimum number of 20 judges on Ghana's Supreme Court bench. Respectfully, I write in reference to our previous discussion on the Chief Justice's proposal for an increase in the number of justices of the Supreme Court. Kindly find attached a paper justifying the need for the request. So this is a letter written by the CJ to the office of the president himself, justifying an earlier letter that she wrote asking for 5 more judges to be added to the Supreme Court bench. Her reason was that the court appeared overwhelmed, workload very huge. And in this particular justification, she provided some data to suggest that the courts indeed were overloaded with a lot of cases. So, for example, it said that there were 761 cases in 2018-2019 at the Supreme Court, 869 in 2019-2020, 906 in 2020-2021, 799 in 2021-2022, and 939 in 2022-2023 legal years. So these were this is the data. These are the volumes. But out of this, not so many of the cases were heard and adjudicated upon, leaving quite a number of cases, unattended to, and that has implication for justice delivery. So her view is that we need more justices at the Supreme Court to help deal with these matters. The NDC didn't think it was the appropriate thing to do at this time. And indeed, we understand that some names were sent to the Judicial Council. The Judicial Council, we understand, rejected those names. We are not sure about the reasons, but media reports suggest that the Judicial Council was not comfortable with the increase, given the timing and public perception, etc. So that is where we are. The NDC has since said that it was unconstitutional for the CJ to do what she did. This is our matter for this morning. So, Sweeney, why did the NDC see the need to hold a full-blown press conference to deal with this matter?
Well, Salam, you're a lawyer, I'm not. I haven't stepped foot in any law class before. So I'm actually surprised.
But you're a lawmaker.
You are attributing, yes, I'm surprised you are attributing the illegality of what the Chief Justice did to the NDC. Because you know it to be fact that by our constitution, that is not the way judges, are selected and appointed to the Superior Court of Ghana. That's not how it's been done. That's not how the Constitution anticipates it to be done. And so it's not just the NDC describing it as illegal. We must all be bold enough to call it what it is, an illegality. And then from there, we can begin to have a conversation of whether it is even a call that is necessary or not. But you see, this government, I believe, has been tolerated to a point where it thinks it can get away with murder. In fact, they have. For the first time in the Fourth Republic, we had an election, and after that process, about 7 people were shot dead in the course of the election until date. In fact, no one is asking, no one is upset, no one is angry, no one is demanding justice, even for the families of the murdered ones. And so the government has actually gotten away with murder. It's not because, it's not as if they think they can get away with it. Our tolerance of their, misdeeds have emboldened them to, sometimes behave as if the law has become what they say it is in this country. And that is why perhaps there's an increased call, in a pretentious way, I call it, for us to review our constitution. I think it is pretentious. It is because all of a sudden we are seeing the abuses, we are seeing the lapses that people are engaged in, but we are not very frontal in calling them out. And so we are rather suggesting that there's a problem with our constitution and our law. I'm not saying that, it is entirely, a wrong call for us to take a second look at our constitution. But I'm saying perhaps the crescendo is high now because we are unable to tell this government in its face that what it is doing is wrong. I have said, and I believe it to be true, that it does not matter how well a text is crafted as a legislation. If the character of the people who are expected to apply that text is faulty, it doesn't matter how well crafted a text is. If the character of the people who are supposed to apply that text is faulty, you will have a faulty outcome. So over the years, we have operated with the 1992 Constitution. We have always known that presidents are not given a ceiling when it comes to the number of ministers they appoint. We were all rudely awoken to the reality that we may have 200 ministers in this country if we are not careful. And instead of pointing out the indiscipline of the president who has appointed an unprecedented number of ministers that just beats our imagination and the logicality behind not putting a ceiling, instead of calling out that indiscipline, we are saying that it's a problem with our constitution. Why, if the problem is with the constitution, why is it that four presidents, right? 4 presidents before him never did that? Never took advantage of that so-called problem. So it's the character of the person in office. I mean, we have a contingency fund that we have always operated with in our budgets. And every finance minister has allocated monies to to that fund. And monies in that fund has been used for emergency situations without a problem. All of a sudden, a finance minister of this government applies funds in the contingency fund to the building of a personal promise made to God, a cathedral. I mean, and then all of a sudden, we have to go again and look at our laws about how a finance minister can put money in the contingency fund. It's the character of the people who are in office, and we need to call them out and, discourage others from emulating such bad characters. Instead of calling on people to, look at what is wrong with our law. It is the same with this Supreme Court issue. Over the years, even a so-called dictator, Gerald Rawlings, so-called dictator, operated with this constitution without packing the courts in the way that it is being packed now by a so-called human rights activist, champion of legal rule of law. And yet, we're not bold enough to call out the president for such indisciplined acts, such immoral acts. It may not be illegal, but I mean, the framers of the Constitution anticipated a certain moderation. And that is why perhaps they allowed that laxity, so that at least with moderation and with sense of presence, people, practically will do things to our collective benefit. Right. But clearly you have a government in office that doesn't just have self-restraint. And so they go the full length. How on earth do you justify the attempt to increase the number of Supreme Court judges under one regime to over 20, appointed by that same regime? I think it is, in my view, all in line with the attempt to avoid accountability to the people of Ghana. That's the bottom line, Salom. It is an attempt to avoid accounting to the people of Ghana. So you have a president that has made a public pronouncement that one thing left for him to do is to get Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia to succeed him.
But that is a politician. That's what
he said that other presidents have failed. He is going to make sure he doesn't fail. That's one way of, I say that is, Selam, I'm saying that is one way of avoiding accountability, because he knows that another government, either from his talk, will go into the closet and rake out all the bad things that he has been doing, some of which we have seen snippets of, only snippets, and yet they stink. And to couple, the election of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, he is also, packing the courts. He doesn't even have guarantee or assurance that his wishful dream, which inshallah will not come to pass, of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia becoming president, he will give him that insulation that he requires. He doesn't have that guarantee that that wishful dream will give him that insulation. So he wants to pack the courts. And unfortunately, you have a pliant Chief Justice, who is lending himself to this shameful conduct. Because I don't think the Chief Justice is unaware of the processes and procedures that, the selection or the appointment of justices to the Supreme Court ought to follow. She knows. But to write a letter like this to the president, not the Judicial Council, I mean, defying all the precedents and the constitutional arrangements, you just wonder what
All right, so that's
It's at stake.
Honorable Sweeney telling us the NDC side of things. You know,
and I'm not a lawyer, so I choose not to be legalistic about
very
this.
Well, yes, I mean, very well. So the lawyers. So let me go to a lawyer, Bobby Banson. Bobby, welcome to the program. So yes, Sweeney is not a lawyer. He's rightly said that. But is there any? I'm sure you've seen the Chief Justice's letter making the request. Is there anything wrong with the Chief Justice asking for more judges to be appointed to the Supreme Court? Indeed, we are also in possession of another letter from the Chief Justice that justifies the request and provides data to support why she thinks that the number of judges should increase to 20, the workload, etc. You know, listing the number of cases that the Supreme Court, were filed at the Supreme Court, you know, for the past 7 years or so, and how many of those cases were determined and how many were not determined, stating that because the numbers are few at the bench, on the bench, it's been difficult to deliver justice or to expedite the process. Talk to us, first of all, was it unusual for the Chief Justice to have made that request? Of course, it's not in the Constitution that she would say so, so it's become unconstitutional in the view of many people. But talk to us, what do you think?
Good morning, Selom, and good morning to Kingsley and my very, very, very senior brother, Suhini.
Good morning.
Thank you for the opportunity. I think that we would have to, and when I have an opportunity to speak about this particular subject, I speak purely as somebody who practices, at least in the Supreme Court, and has first-hand experience with some of the challenges. Unfortunately, we tend to over-politicize almost every issue in this country. And when it comes to matters of the judiciary, I'm always very slow and very careful to put political inclinations to why something is done. I always say that at the end of the day, we must remember that the court structure, right from the district court, family tribunals, up to the Supreme Court, do not sit to handle political cases alone or cases involving politically exposed persons. Indeed, majority, if not more than 90% of the cases that are handled by the judiciary involve persons who are not politically exposed persons. After all, what is the percentage of politically exposed persons in Ghana compared to the total population? And so if everything that is done by the judicial service or by the judiciary is treated as being done to achieve a certain political aim, then at the end of the day, we are telling the farmer whose farmland has been taken by galamsey operations or by another person not to have confidence in the judicial system. That is the extent of damage. We have damaged our, for lack of a better word, our parliament, because everything they do is based on political lines, for lack of a better word. We have damaged our executive because they are there to achieve a political purpose. We cannot touch our judiciary this way, because when we do, it's not the political elite alone that would suffer. Every single Ghanaian stands to suffer. And so we should be careful when we are impugning political connotations to decisions or actions taken by the judiciary. It's not if you go to court and you don't win, it is not always because that you have a bad case. It may be on technical grounds, it may be because you didn't have evidence, but we should be slow to say that it is because a political force was behind it. And if you situate that in the context of what has happened. Now, let's take a look at the Constitution. The Constitution says that it is the president alone that will nominate judges to the Supreme Court. The judges that are nominated by the president must be nominated in consultation with 1, the Judicial Council, 2, the Council of State, and if you meet these 2 levels of approvals, you go to Parliament for Parliament to approve before you are appointed. So it is not true, as I said, that the president is the one that appoints judges to the Supreme Court. The president nominates in consultation with these 2 state organs. Then you go to Parliament, which is supposed to be a representation of everybody, devoid of political, you have NDC there, you have MPP, you used to have CPP, independent candidates, everybody there, you come, you decide. Now, the letter by the Chief Justice, the Judicial Council, the chairperson of the Judicial Council is the Chief Justice by the Constitution. The Chief Justice is the chairperson of the Judicial Council. Perhaps this is the first time I am seeing, or it's coming to the media, that such a sensitive letter written by the Chief Justice, perhaps in her capacity as Chief Justice alone, that capacity also allows her to be the chairperson of the Judicial Council, which the president must necessarily consult before a person is nominated to the position of the Supreme Court. Now, if the Chief Justice, who is charged in the Constitution with the overall responsibility, administrative responsibility, of ensuring efficiency in justice delivery, sits and says that I think we need more justices to the Supreme Court. I am writing to you as the nominating authority, the president. Nominate these persons so that they go through the process. I don't think that the Chief Justice intended by her letter that the mere fact that she has written the letter would mean that tomorrow the president would announce that Kofi, Ama, Ya, their names contained in the letter, are now justices of the Supreme Court. I do not think that has ever happened, and I do not think that was the intention of the Chief Justice when she wrote that letter. Obviously, if she has a right to say that this is the problem we are facing, and so you are a practitioner, Kingsley is there. You know, for the first time in our history, the Supreme Court is sitting in a double track. We have a bench that is sitting from 9:30 till 11:30. Sometimes it goes up to 12:30, and another bench sitting in the afternoon. Why is that? Because of the number of cases. And so if you have the whole Supreme Court doing double track so that they would dispose of cases very quickly, and the Chief Justice says that I think, and you know the Supreme Court traditionally does not sit on Mondays and does not sit on Fridays, traditionally. And so if the Chief Justice thinks that looking at the data that I have, I would need more persons to join so that perhaps we can even start sitting on Mondays, we can even start sitting on Fridays to deal with urgent matters that people are saved with. Previously, when you file a motion for certiorari or prohibition or any other motion before the Supreme Court, you are given a date by the registrar on the day you file the motion. These days, you file a motion and the registrar tells you need to give us 2 weeks. Why? Because the bench is overwhelmed and overpacked. We cannot empanel judges immediately. We need to look at the workload. And so I do not see anything wrong with the Chief Justice who has the constitutional mandate, this same constitution, to ensure that there is efficiency in justice delivery. Looking at the data that she has, saying that we will need to appoint more judges. In my capacity as Chief Justice, I have worked with these people as the head of the judiciary. I am suggesting to you that consider nominating A, B, C, D, E, F as for once that is done, the president knows that the procedure would be, the president is not bound by that suggestion. The president can decide to take it or leave it. So if the president takes it and then comes to say, okay, I'm now going through the process, bringing it back to the Judicial Council, where the Chief Justice has only one vote on that council, only one vote. She doesn't have any authoritative vote and say that what I say is final. No, only one vote before it goes to the Council of State and then to Parliament, where if the NDC is of the opinion that there's a reason why these persons that have been named should not become Supreme Court judges, they have their say in Parliament. Unfortunately, we have a hung Parliament where they are almost have the same numbers as the MPP. Every time, you know, these matters come up, we hear the NDC, or depending on which party is against it, say one thing, and their parliamentarians do the other. At the end of the day, all those that have been nominated by the president since he became president have almost received unanimous approval by the committee, almost always. Almost always. So why do you approve them if you are not happy? The Constitution lays two criteria for the nomination of somebody to the, or appointment of somebody to the Supreme Court. You must be 15 years at the bar. You must have high proven integrity and morals. And so if these two criteria is met, the Constitution leaves the discretion to the president. Now, the issue of the timing, I find most intriguing. Because, if I am going to file a writ today at the Supreme Court, The registrar cannot say, wait, we don't have many judges, so I will not take your case. How would I feel? Because the Constitution says that justice should be administered in the name of the Republic, the people of Ghana. So there is no registrar of the Supreme Court that should refuse to accept a court process I am filing on the basis that they don't have sufficient numbers, so they cannot accept new cases. Unless the argument is that because we are close to election, no person should file any case in the Supreme Court until after election, where now we can appoint new judges. Unless that is what we are telling the farmer who has lost a case from the district court and wants to exercise his constitutional right to appeal to the Supreme Court, that between June and December of every election year, nobody should file a fresh case because we do not have sufficient numbers, and because it's election year, the president cannot appoint new judges. I don't think that is what we intend to do. And so as long as, for me, there has actually not been a breach of the constitutional provision because the names or the letter written by the Chief Justice has not made the persons named therein Supreme Court judges. They have to go through a procedure. So unless that procedure has been breached in terms of the appointment, then I can say something is wrong. But the Chief Justice, who has the overall administrative responsibility of the judiciary, deals with all the judges at whatever levels. I don't think that you can say that there's something wrong with her saying, we have a problem, we need to solve it. We need numbers of people to this, and I think that that would help us work and deliver justice efficiently.
Great.
Beyond
Bobby,
that,
yes. Just so two things quickly. Yes, you could have written a letter, but not state or not recommend names. If she had said we need more judges, I recommend maybe we get 5 more. So without suggesting the names, maybe the reaction would have been different. Especially now that we have a live case, very political, the ambulance case, with a judge in there, and that judge's name also finds itself the name onto this new list or suggested list. That politically it will surely raise some concerns. We've had other judges who have jailed political persons deemed as political opponents. The NCA case, Justice Chamber, etc., were involved. And now we have these guys' names, these persons, distinguished persons' names forming part of the list. The CJ wants the president to okay for nomination. Politically, it will obviously generate some discussion like it is now. Number 2, the issue about, or maybe you deal with this first quickly, then I throw in the second one.
Okay, it is a fair comment to say that perhaps if it was you wouldn't have put the names there. It's a fair comment to just state the need and then leave the name out. But I don't think means that those names must be accepted by the president. The only person with authority to nominate is the president. And so on. If we speak about the political connotations, do you know when Justice Chebafo was appointed the first time to the bench? Do you know when? It was in 2010. It was the NDC that was in power. His first appointment to the Circuit Court was in 2010, during the era of the NDC. So if we go on that tangent, and Justice Efias Aribotwe was appointed in 2013. That was also in the era of the NDC, in 2013. And so if you want to tie these appointments to politics, are we going to say that at the time during the NDC era, even though we cannot say that circuit court judges are appointed by the president, perhaps, but it was during their era, if we want to make this argument, would we say that at the time they were appointed in 2013, in 2010, they were appointed because of their political lineage? It is the persons that you brought onto the bench that have risen through the system, displayed a lot of, as it were, industry, and they've caught the attention of their boss, for lack of a better word, the head of the judiciary. And she is saying that these are because the Chief Justice is the president of the Supreme Court. So if in her opinion, she thinks these are the persons that, as it were, I would suggest that you nominate You may say that she could have written the letter without adding that. It's a fair comment, but she has done that. Has she breached any law? I don't think so.
Very well.
Because even as a member of the Judicial Council, as the chairperson, she's entitled to have those discussions at that level. Perhaps it is now that, I don't know whether in the past the Chief Justice were consulted by the President before any list. I expect that by virtue of corporate governance or committee, that would be done. But maybe now that in the era of social media, everything that you write in confidence is leaked, that this is coming up. But I don't think that we should play politics with the bench, with
Very
the
well.
judiciary, and with
The other point,
long one.
The other point is that, you know, we have 15 justices on the Supreme Court bench now. I think apart from Justice Bafoboni and Justice Poaman, everybody else is being appointed by President Akufo-Addo. Many factors may account for that. It could be that in his time they retired, and so they have to be replaced, or some died, like Justice Manhyia South, God bless his soul, and so they had to be replaced. But is it not concerning, maybe as a political watcher, that one person is appointed 13 out of the 15 and is being called upon to admit or nominate 5 extra onto the Supreme Court bench? As a political party waiting on the sidelines to get into government, shouldn't this generate the kind of discussion it is generating? If this happens, 18 out of the 20 would have been appointed by one person.
I always make this example. You can't blame the president that it is during his time that a lot of judges at the Supreme Court retired. You can't blame him. You can't blame the president that maybe some unfortunately passed. We know that once there's a gap, there's a minimum. The Chief Justice, 9 other judges. Once there's a gap, the president cannot allow us to fall below the minimum. Other than that, the argument would be, since he came to power, how many judges have retired from the Supreme Court? Are they more than 10? Are they more than 15? And so if it is as if he always appoints to replace, do you blame him? If he was not the president, and it was His Excellency John Dramani Mahama who was the president, and during his time this had happened, I wouldn't have faulted him for appointing those people to replace. At the end, or nominating, and I like to use that word, nominating, to replace, because it has to go through Parliament. And Salom, one thing, when I see the comparison with America and other countries, one thing that perhaps, and to speak about Honorable Suhini's thing about constitutional amendment, you know, in Ghana, the Supreme Court has jurisdiction in all areas of law. Unlike in other countries where there's a constitutional court that deals with only matters relating to the Constitution. There is an election court that deals with Supreme Court, dealing with only matters relating to election petition. So that there are different benches dealing with different specific causes of action, so you don't overload. But in our jurisdiction, one Supreme Court handles every single matter, from marital to land to election petition to commercial transactions to everything. And so if they have 700 briefs being handled by only 15 men and women, when are they? Now you go there, this week I was in the Supreme Court twice. They are adjourning cases to November to deliver judgment. The adjourning cases, we are in July, to November. If you were the one whose case was adjourned, I don't think you'd have been happy for that long. And so I do not blame the president for being the one in a position where a lot of judges have retired. Let's count the number of judges that have retired since 2017 January, and see if indeed the numbers that have been appointed, there is a correlation with the numbers that have retired or those that have passed. Then we can make the argument. Unless you say he came to meet 20 judges, all the 20 judges are there, then he's appointed another 18. Then maybe there'll be a cause for alarm.
Very well.
But we don't have that here.
Very well. Great. Bobby, great insights you provided. I'll take a short break. Let me take a short break. I'll come back and hear from Kingsley and hear from Franklin on this matter. This is a big issue. Don't go away. You're welcome back. This is the big issue, very final lap of the program. We're looking at the CJ's letter to the president asking for some 5 judges to be appointed to the Supreme Court. Let me speak to Kingsley Amwakwa Bwedu, who is a member of the MPP legal team. The NDC is unhappy with it, the way and manner it's been carried out. The view is that it is unknown to the Constitution, and so it is unconstitutional. Should the CJ be writing to the president requesting more judges to be added to the Supreme Court bench and even suggesting names? You know, where does that put us really?
Thank you. I think this whole issue about judges being appointed to the Supreme Court and all that, I think we are looking at it from the wrong end because of how NDC politicizes the issue matters with the judiciary. And I tread cautiously because it's our last bastion of hope. And there are a lot of things that happen there that has no political bearing at all and should not be interpreted with any political lenses or looked at with any political lenses. Secondly, the press conference is targeted at the judiciary, all right, and probably the presidency. So I am not sitting here speaking on behalf of the judiciary for whose head the CJ is. I'm only commenting on the matter, all right. And so I think it's a shame that the setup of the judiciary, they don't have PR or public officers who speak on their behalf. And so at times when you're speaking, it looks like you have taken their side, and that is not the impression we want to create. Now, if you look at Article 144(2), it says that the Supreme Court justices shall be appointed by the President acting on the advice of the Judicial Council in consultation with the Council of State and with the approval of Parliament. And so as my brother Bobby Banton said, there's always going to be the last hurdle that you have to jump over is parliamentary approval. All right, so no matter who you are, how your name came about, you have to jump through that parliamentary approval stage. And then the formal process starts with the president appointing, and then it goes to the Judicial Council with the Council of State, then Parliament. As to how it starts informally, we have no idea. I mean, I suppose as the head, you see the Chief Justice wears 2 hats. She's a judge, she adjudicates, and then she's also the head of the administrative side. So I applaud Justice Anini Yeboah, for instance, for building a lot of high courts. Go to Adenta, go to... I
think Adenta was built by Sofa Akufo.
Very well. But then there are several high courts that have been built.
And bungalows.
And all that. Because, you see, we need a lot of judges. It's a shame that a lot of lawyers don't want to cross over to that side because it's a bit restrictive. And there's a lot of work. And I'm speaking as a son of a former High Court judge. So I grew up at 12 midnight. You hear bang. It's one huge law book. My father has finished with it. He's put it on there. He's going for the next. Till about 5 a.m. He will sleep and wake up at 7. By 7:15, he's on his way to court. To the extent that now that he's retired, he's about 88. He can't sleep between that period. So if I happen to be at his house, we'll watch boxing together throughout the night. And that is a lifestyle because they have worked for Ghana. And there's a lot of work now coming out. Why? Because we are now asserting our rights, including our constitutional rights. And the only place we have to go to is the Supreme Court. Can you imagine cases that have been started from, some of them started from the district court. They found their way to the Supreme Court. And that is why some of our land matters, it took 20 years. The Tesla matter took 20 years to be resolved. For that period of the 20 years, people are encroaching on their lands. So when you're even the judgment creditor, you now have to come and deal with, and I'm dealing with the Opelosowa case, aspects of the Opelosowa case at the Transaco place, where people have come in and encroached, and it's difficult but you have the judgment. As far back as 2004, 20 years, they are still trying to evict people and now filing other processes of possession and what because the case traveled that long, you see. So it being that it is not only constitutional matters that the Supreme Court handles, it being that our population is increasing, it being that, and I've seen a lot of them, some of them were my father's mates who got into the Supreme Court. The work is too much. The work is way too much. So if we have to increase it, we increase it because of the exigencies of the matter. It is not because we want to pad. So if someone is being appointed, we're only looking at that, then it's a disservice to ourselves, because we assume that if someone is appointed by this particular president or particular government, then he's going to do their bidding. It is not the case.
Yeah, so
it is not the case
on
at
a
all.
specific issue. So the CJ, for example, in suggesting these names, if these names get to the Judicial Council where she chairs, will she recuse herself?
If she doesn't recuse herself, how many are the Judicial Council and what is her vote? One.
No, it doesn't matter. But God, this would have been her people.
Yes.
And so she will sit in her own
Her
cause,
people
on her
in the
own
sense
cause.
that's what I'm coming to. The people that she thinks are fit. All right. Now, remember that, and my brother Bobby said this, that even as presented to the president also makes an assessment and thinks that what the CJ is saying is right. He may even come up with his own list, another list, because he's appointed authority. It gets sent. All right. So it's not a given factor that these 5 names will come to the Judicial Council. But even if it gets there, she only has 1 vote. And it's not her people are saying, as in this is, he has any personal interest in them. She just deduced and said that these people are fit. They've passed the 15 years, they are credible, they've done judgments. And you see, they always read judgments and look at the sagacity, the judicial sagacity of it before you get promoted. Some of them even write papers and all that. So it is not kosher that because your name comes up.
But there's
so you
argument
go through
that
that.
there are a lot of other people there.
Yes,
I don't want to mention names.
But yes, there's always going to be other people, out of which
and these names just came to the Court of Appeal.
It doesn't matter at all. Justice Afre's name came up at that time. Not knowing he had lectured a lot of those who are the Supreme Court. Lectured them, right? But his name just came up. There are several people who may be at one place, and I've noticed this for a long time. There are several people who may be at one place, and then one day they get promoted. So if they spend a limited time at the Court of Appeal and they go to the Supreme Court, that is not a consideration. The consideration is, are you 15 years at the bar? That is all it is.
Great.
And then if Parliament and NDC wants to critique or have an input in it, that is when they will do, that is at the committee level, when they are vetting. That is when but to jump the cut, I think they should have kept quiet to see what happens after this. Is the president now going to say that because of this?
But we hear the Judicial Council rejected it. Do you have that information too?
You see, there are things we hear from some grapevines about that. I don't want to comment on this time. So it is not, let's depoliticize this issue totally. And writing that letter to the president is not unconstitutional, as they put it. It is whether the president will take heed to that, whether he will appoint, will he go through the process, constitutional process. If that is missing, then NDC is right.
Very well.
If that is not missing, then they are jumping, they are putting the card.
Good. Let me give a few seconds to
you see, Salam, let me commend my very good brother, Bobby, for the elucidation that he has, brought to this discussion. But I have serious disagreements with his approach, even though I agree to a certain extent that there's a need for us to serve justice to the ordinary Ghanaian without looking at how an improvement of that system necessarily disadvantages one political party. But we must do so mindful of the political atmosphere that we live in. Look, Article 144(2) of the 1992 Constitution, and again, I'm not a lawyer, but it makes it clear for anybody who is literate to understand that it is the responsibility of the president to do this on the advice of the Judicial Council. No one else.
Yeah. So what it means is that there are ways the president doesn't have to know everybody. People may make informal recommendations.
So what it means is that when the president is minded to appoint people to the, Supreme Court, he will solicit advice from this Judicial Council.
Yeah, but this one, it is together with the letter, there came a detailed analysis. Which talked about the numbers.
I will address that. I will address that. This letter, this letter, if you allow me, that's why I was hoping you would interrupt. If you allow me, you see, this letter didn't come from the Judicial Council.
No, it didn't. It came from the Chief
and I'm
Justice.
telling you that the law is clear
about the Judicial Council.
Advises the president.
Very well.
And if you look at the Judicial Council Act, the Judicial Service Act, Judicial Service Act,
no, my time is up.
1057(6). You will
we had all of this.
The functions of the Judicial Council.
Very well, great.
And that does not include
my time is up.
recommending, justices to be appointed to
Very
the
well.
Supreme Court.
My time is up. Adum Tete sends this message. He said, I think we've allowed politicians to raise the political temperature of the nation for nothing. The suspicion is that there is likely to be an election dispute, and that means that these judges will be on the case. And he goes ahead to say a few things. All right. And also, but it's been put out there. So this is how we conclude edition of the program. Time is not being a friend. My name is Selom Adonu. Thank you so much for doing this.